A few minutes delayed. We're trying to make sure we're ready for a great discussion today. We thank those who joined us here. We always open up with well, actually, we're still reconvening up here. So, but we still need to pray today. Amen. Always. So, Martin, you want to pray for us?
No.
Yes, he does. He was already ready. See?
I'm just joking. Eternal Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering, this meeting. God, we ask you to open our hearts and our minds. We ask you to help us navigate this budget session so that we can make sure that we put our residents first and foremost. It is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. So we're picking it up from where we left off the other day.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so kind of picking up from where we left off the other day, we had a great recap. The goal today is to let's continue to work through to see kind of what our numbers are that we have. The parking lot list, we will tackle the second part of the meeting today. And so the list has grown a little bit. So the recommendation that I want to have before you was to remind us of the 5 things we said were important in strategic planning. The things on the parking lot should fit into those 5 categories. Then we are able to see, we'll be in agreement that 1, there are 5 categories that we've all agreed on. 2, the things in the parking lot should fit into a category, and then it'll help us prioritize each category. So if we come out of that today, that's a fair way versus us saying what we emotionally prefer over something else. It shows us where we are as a group. So that's the goal today. Where we left off the other day, where we were at some of those savings that are in green. Tim has kind of totaled everything on an estimated basis. Roughly the top 3 between vacancies, closeout projects that were recommended, but we're just talking the numbers now, not necessarily where it's going, and money that was into some CIP projects, roughly or around 4.3 million. Mr. Floats, again, as we know, has stated that he will provide a contract that lays out the basis of when he needs, what he needs, and how he needs it paid. So have the opportunity there to, because he said at least 12 to 18 months before you need it, to start collecting any of that, have the opportunity there to relieve some pressure off of our general fund. And, roughly, if you did half of that, roughly it's about, that'll put us about 7.3. And so the only other areas that we have would be, I think to the right are the goals. We certainly always want to meet our goal. We know the state is 8, the goal is 10, the policy is 10, and the goal is 12. So we definitely want to hover above that. And those are the amounts left over from fund balance. So, Councilman Harris, you had something.
Do we have any other line items where funding has been set aside and appropriated, but either haven't been used for a number of years, or is set up like number 6 that we could also look at? I've been thinking about that over the last few hours. Do we have any more like that we can look at?
So our CIP plan gives us the best read on that.
Yes.
Which is that paper we asked for that's kind of long, but it'll tell you what's. We've got a lot of paper. That paper dump, so let's go.
There's a number of things in there, so it may.
All right, so that will tell us what's currently set aside and what's in the budget and what category comes in. Some of that money has to stay within the use column that we had, but yes, there are areas that we've got money set aside. Now, there's stuff from previous budget years that is already funded and not a part of the ongoing contribution of the CIP, i.e., parks or something that already has money set aside. Is that shown on here, be in the Parks and Rec. If there were a park. Yes, okay. Yeah, so Councilman here, the answer is it's on this.
So outside of those that is a need and a must stay in place, I don't know, I don't want to go through it line by line, but I was just wondering, since staff knows it better, and just a small consensus from you and council, is that something that maybe they could pull out, that we could look at just in case there are?
So I think that'll fall under any CIP projects that we want to make adjustment with, like we were talking about the 1.23 plus the recommended for the next space. So, you know, once we get to that, I guess we can look at any specific ones.
So we're going back through that today, the CIP
Yeah,
from
we're
top
gonna
to
spend the
bottom?
first hour, or 45 minutes to an hour on that kind of stuff. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's imperative that we have a starting point on how we want to move forward. So, Mr. Mayor, I think it's pertinent that we get a consensus on how we want to move forward. Everybody in agreement with 0 tax increase, 1% tax increase, 2, 3, or 4. That will give us a baseline of what we can find, whether money that we need or money that we don't need to put on the board, so we can fill in those 5 items that's on our priority list.
Well, I've made myself perfectly clear, Mayor Pro Tem, Temporal, that I am with a 0 tax increase. So that hasn't changed from day one.
Get consensus on that, Mr. Mayor?
From everybody, so we can run those who are in favor of a no tax increase plan. Show of hands. 2, 3. All right.
So, wait a minute, now, hold on, that's 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's the majority.
Sell me on it.
I need to see who is opposed to the consensus motion.
All right, so show of hands, that's a little high.
1, 2,
In
3,
favor of 0, we can get what we want.
5.
That's 6. All right.
And we can get what we need, so.
Well, that's what the scalpel.
Yeah, we can get what we need, we fine, but if you can't,
All right, so that's consent. So, council, any other items that we can see that are covered here, like you want to scan through your CIP for a minute, and ask if there are any areas that can be moved around or delayed to free up some bandwidth. Mayor Pro Tem.
One thing, Mr. Mayor, where is the sheet that tells us what's not funded with no tax increase? We only have this parking lot, and I only have penny operations and 2-cent operations.
Penny operations is the operations.
Say it again.
any
One
operation.
mark
We need
penny
to
operation allocation. That is the operating budget side. And then the projects listed on the 2 pennies, the additional 2 pennies for capital allocation. Those are the projects that are
Police,
funded
fire.
are total by the regulated taxes. So, no,
In your
2 pages,
packet today.
I'm trying to give you everything you would need for today. So you have three different reports that you're seeing. You have the council parking lot scorecard. You have the operating penny. And then you also have the capital. Right. So when you ask, if you don't do the tax rate increase, now the items on the 1 penny for operations and the 2 pennies for capital come off out of the budget. Unless you free up other funding to add it back. But now, take out the tax rate increase, those are the items that will fall off.
So with the no increase, these 3 pages is everything that's gonna fall off, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir. Unless you do something different.
Now, how
we do
did
something
you choose?
That ain't good.
There are a lot more items in each department, so how did you prioritize? I just have the chopping block thing.
The items for the 1 penny and 2 pennies have remained static. The 2 pennies we gave you in April, the 1 penny for operations we gave you as part of the operating budget presentation. So we haven't changed those at all. The parking lot list, as council has emailed, called, said in public meetings and in private discussions of the ads that they would like to have, that's where we've added to the parking lot. The parking lot is council driven, not staff driven.
Understand. I guess my question is, to create what is funded and what requires a penny or 2 pennies to fund, which is basically whatever's on that list of the 1 penny and 2 penny is what comes off the list of the 1 penny and 2 penny. How was that list determined?
So the operating budget, the directors were told they had a certain amount of money, and they prioritized those items on that list as their lowest priorities. So, in essence, what those departments said is these are the things that they had to cut that they would recommend taking out of the budget. The capital was a combination of capacity and what we believe to be council's priorities and finishing projects that were already in the equation or allowed us to leverage other funding. So once we, that's why it says in part, not all of them, they're dependent on the tax rate, but not for their total funding in some cases. So like Farmers Road, for instance, it's got about 300,000 of the penny in it, but it allows you to unlock 3 million of FAMPO funding because it's the design and the.
But you also take $1 million of the general bond money.
And I'm just telling you how we recommend it, Mayor. It's not value judging the projects, but we tried to maximize every penny before we came to you and said, these are the recommended rate increases. We believe we are aligning with council's priorities, and if you look on your sheet, we have aligned those capital projects with various council goals. So we use your goals in the strategic plan to put together how we recommended that 2-cent increase. If the council doesn't want to do the 2-cent increase, as the Mayor Pro Tem pointed out, then those are the projects that fall off, sans another funding source.
Or other.
Or other. If you want to continue to do those, then you just need to identify the other funding source.
Right. Or we didn't tell you to identify.
Absolutely.
If I may, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Yates, out of the 7.3 that we identified, can you separate what is operational and what is CIP? So out of these 2 sheets that we have, we know that these 2 sheets are operational. We know that this sheet right here is capital. That way we can divide how much money we need for each one so we can move forward.
All of the items that you currently have on your board are capital, or will be one-time in nature.
Okay.
So there are no items on the board that would impact your operations.
Okay. So where do we find the money to fund the operational that's on these 2 sheets?
That was the tax rate recommendations.
Where else can we find the money to fund these on these 2 sheets without raising increase?
You can reduce the services and the operating budget. Or we can.
Increase in
Contribution
revenue.
to the CIP, that's a recurring, right?
Here's
If
another
you want
one.
to
Find some
deviate
more
from council's policy on the 4 cents, absolutely. So,
2 ways.
we gave you
Right
the
now,
best,
you recommended 6. The current funding level is what? 4.
and that 4, above those projects that are on that worksheet, that 4 is allocated. So you would have to go back through and you can, in the capital sheets.
Well, we've already talked about moving stuff and freeing up.
Right, but I think if I didn't get the question right, Mayor Pro Tem, please tell me. The question you had is, what of the money you put on the board can reduce your operating budget requirement? What I would tell you is all the things that are on the board right now are one-time in nature. That don't do you any good from an operating budget perspective.
Track.
All right, yeah, Councilman here.
On the big sheet here, in the CIP project, says as of May 29th, 2026, item 2 and item 3. One is 162,000 renovations, and the other, I'm on page 2, on the big sheet.
All right.
We have,
On the last way, the last.
we
one,
have
the big
those
sheet.
recommendations for 27 of those amounts. But for 1 and 2, I want to know if that's something that we can maybe stretch out a little later. And also, if you go down to item, what is this? Well, for clarification, the Ramsey Street pump station replacement, is that the city or is that PWC?
I believe that is NCDOT. Is that the one under the railroad trust? Correct. And the source of funds for that is what's the source of funds for that? Is that NCDOT? Well, yeah, that's not funded, sir. That's not funded. It's, that may have been, I think that has been appropriated. I think that basically is one that.
You say that's DOT though?
Yeah, this is a dead project, yes.
So going back up to item 1, Mayor.
Sorry.
And item 2, City Hall third floor renovations and,
We gotta read this.
I mean, because you told us to go through the list. And City Hall, and phase 2. City Hall renovations. 27. Those two are still recommended budgets, right? Mr. City Manager?
The third floor,
The third floor and the phase 2. Aren't those, at least number 2 is,
yeah, to clerk's fault. And do we already have that contract for that work?
We are getting ready to bid it out.
Bid it out.
Design is completed, and that is to facilitate part of the move out of Festival Park Plaza.
you say it's getting ready to go to bid.
It's going to get bid.
Well, hold on before you go any further. So if it's getting ready to go to bid, help me understand, then why will we have it? I mean, I know these are capital projects and possible funding, but if we're dealing with the budget, why are they on our list if they get ready to go out for a
This is
bid?
a comprehensive list. This isn't a recommendation for reduction. This is the entire list of all your capital projects. So every project that's live in the CIP, if you
Oh,
will,
excuse me.
will show up here. It's not a, it's a relay, if you will, of your CIP in total. It's not a recommendation for changes or a recommendation for reductions. It's just reflective of how it is. We were asked to put this list together
Okay,
to see it a different way. So for instance, you're talking about the City Hall Phase 2 City Hall renovations.
yes, sir.
We have put that out. The bid, that's a study on city facilities condition, much like the schools. Facilities condition and maintenance plan to be able to determine what the long-term strategy is as we're trying to get out of rental spaces and trying to get out of other places. We need a strategy and a plan, and we want to contract with someone to assess our facilities and give us that, help us develop that plan.
Can I just let me finish, please, Mayor? Thank you. So, because I'm trying to get clarity, Mayor, and understanding. So I understand this is not a cut list or anything. I understand what Mr. Yates was just saying, but since we are dealing with the budget and we are the ones that say, okay, not okay, I just seem like this, as some of the old folk would say, the cart before the horse. So I was just, that was the reason I asked that, because I thought that we were going to go through the list and that was just recommended this morning by the mayor to see if there could be some changes.
Anything on this list can be changed. They have rules attached to it. You can't take something incorporated for one thing and another.
So that's my first part, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I heard correctly, prior to Dr. Harris' questions, we're talking about CIP and allocated. So in the proposed budget, please correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 6 cents of the total ad valorem taxes going to CIP. That's what's recommended
That's correct.
for 2027. But in 2026, we were expensing 4 cents.
We're at 4 cents, correct.
So we wouldn't necessarily, if we continued on the same pace as 26, theoretically, hypothetically, we could continue with the 4 cent, right?
If all of your projects remain static and the cost.
The answer is, I would take a stab at it. I think, yes.
Okay, so,
Yes.
yes, so then in that 6 cent is the Skyview number 6, is that part of the 6 cents?
No.
No, so where's that,
You're talking about stadium view?
where's that money?
It is in the, it's in the general fund balance as assigned.
Gotcha. Okay, and then out of the difference between the 4 cent we used in 26, we allocated for CIP, and the 4 cent that's already allocated for 27 for CIP, the recommended 2 cent is going where?
that list, that the last page of the list you provided shows the allocation of those additional 2 cents.
Today's list?
Yes, the last page of that packet is the capital fund. So all of those projects listed on there are partially or completely funded by that additional 2 cents in that budget.
All right, I'll find it.
All right, so real quick to that point, right? The bond. The bond is an increased amount, recurring amount added to the tax rate, citizen tax, to be used for whatever. Typically, it takes pressure off of what you need to allocate, whether that's 4 cents or 6 cents every year, because it's able to give an influx of cash to take out some of these projects during, right? The reason that matters, what you just asked, right, is that part of that influx of cash in this big thing budget, it tells you need 6 cents versus 4 to do stuff. Money has been moved like out of the general, the infrastructure bond, like 900,000 for a new project. Okay, and so that's 900,000 worth of something that was not in existence, which creates the demand for you to make it 6 cents versus 4 cents.
Right.
So it matters where you move pieces to make that adjustment.
Absolutely.
All right, and the other thing I would say is typically that bandwidth that you talked about of making actual payroll, knowing that you're gonna have so many vacancies, and the way that you do that to give you that flex along the time, doesn't that typically pay for the COLA, right? You've got that flex that you use, so typically that extra 1 or 2% fluctuation that you have, that in other words, you budgeted for 8.5 million in payroll, but it's actually 7. Can't that go toward, or isn't that usually going toward the COLA?
Actually, in the budget this year, sir, if you look at the other appropriations response that we had provided, you can see 2 lines. There is the $4.9 million for the compensation increase, and then there's a negative line of $8.9 million for vacancy savings. So you're absolutely right. In estimating the vacancy savings, we have lapped the COLA cost with vacancy dollars. So so yes, we do cover it, but it's accounted for.
I understand, but it's baked into your COLA calculation.
It's accounted for. No, it's not baked. It's not part of the COLA calculation. It's 2 separate things, because if council, it's set up that way so the council decides not to do the pay increase, then you have
just
that.
got an extra.
Then you free up that cash,
You just got an
because
extra.
they're not dependent on each other.
I understand that, but would you say that it is a common practice that if you use that flex the way that you're saying that we've always done it, that a lot of times it's allocated for your COLA? And council, the reason I was saying split COLA, you see what we're doing now is you're trying to find out how to do operational things, to take relief of that, or you cut these. Now, I did have a question. All of the recommended cuts are either in police, fire, or parks and rec.
No, sir.
Well, maybe I'm missing some pages.
Oh, and one of the things too,
Let me see. Hold on, let me address that. I see public service, finance, parks and rec, police and fire.
And
Only departments that would be cut in the event that 2% or 1% is not increased. That's it.
Yes, sir. That would be the
So
recommendation.
no OCS, no, none of that. Wasn't that on the, if you do 2 pennies, it pays for something?
It's 2.
No, sir. If
Wait a
you
minute.
did an additional, if you did an additional cent, yes, that was the build out of OCS. So if you want to restore.
So why wouldn't that be on here?
Because it wasn't recommended.
What wasn't recommended?
We didn't recommend a second operational penny as part of the budget. We didn't recommend a second operational penny to build out OCS or fund fire. We told council, if council has an interest in these other additional things, unfreezing 38 officers, building out OCS, funding the overhires in fire department, then that would cost you an additional 2.25 cents. But what we recommended was the 1 cent increase, because those are current operations that the city already does. The additional OCS, the additional overhires and fire, or the funding of the overhires and fire, and the 38 positions are currently not funded. So those will be new services. What we gave you was a budget that meets current funding levels. So that's why we didn't recommend.
Right, I got that. But you got a department that had more money than what you had staffing or used for at the moment as we build it up, right? So you're saying basically that we're gonna leave it at 2 million roughly to build it out. You're calling that, or you factor that in as a normal funding amount for that?
Now that we have a director and an operating budget, we have personnel costs and he's got programming.
Right.
So that was his budgetary request, just like a regular department.
Right, I get it.
And I want to come back to one thing that you mentioned, Mayor, what the best practices related to COLA are related to compensation versus vacancy money. When we do our financial report to the LGC, there's an indicator. I had this conversation with our auditor yesterday to be sure I understood exactly, because I wanted to try to address your question. When the LGC looks at your financial statement, they ask the question, was one-time money spent on operational issues? Okay, there are two categories, operations and capital. Right? So what the LGCs don't like to see, and what causes them to become more interested is when you use one-time money for operating. So any compensation increase. Okay,
And the final question, because Mayor Pro Tem's got his hand, so.
that's fine. I just want to be sure you understand that the one-time money for compensation, while it's one-time in nature in our thoughts.
So even though we did it with ARPA and we did it with.
ARPA was a completely different.
I got you. All right, so.
So it was an authorized under federal legislation to do that.
Right.
But the LGC, what they look at that and say is you are spending your savings account for operations.
Right, gotcha.
Just like, and why this matters is because any of these items up here that you have, if you push them back to operations, that same indicator, whether it's salaries, whether it's fuel, whatever it is, will rise on the AFIR and will be problematic for the city.
Right, all right, final question.
That's
How much do we currently contribute to retirement now? What's the percent?
You're talking about 401k.
You got a 1% recommended in addition to the 4%.
That's 401. So there's two retirement sets. Okay, there is the Elders Local Government Employee Retirement System. So that's the pension system. I believe that contribution, Amanda, is 12%, 13%. And it's a match. It's a combination of employee pays and we pay. On the 401k.
I'm just asking about our part.
On the 401k, the city now, for some employees, pays 4%. For sworn law enforcement employees, pays 5%. The recommendation in the budget is to bring parity to everyone to do 5%.
So it's 5 plus the 12.
Well, the 12 is a pension contribution.
Right.
Both are required. The 5 for law enforcement is required by statute.
I'm talking about.
Okay. The pension, the local government employee retirement system is required by statute. The remaining employees that aren't required by statute is about competitiveness and fairness across your pay system. So that is that 1% gets you to we've been working on it for the last 4 years to get to 5%, because we started at 1, and now that's where we are.
All right. Plus the 4% COLA, if recommended, if you accept the recommended.
So if you accept the recommended, yes, the 4% of midpoint compensation. So won't be 4% for everyone, plus the steps.
Understood.
So the steps aren't 4%. Everybody on step plan will get their next step.
Councilman Harry, you have.
Yes, sir. Okay. I didn't get my answer, and I have a couple more questions. I want to go back to the City Hall third floor renovations and the phase 2 City Hall renovations, 2 and 3 on the general, the CIP. It's the large sheet that we have.
Yes, sir.
Large sheet that we have. I wanted to know if that's something that maybe we could stretch out to some additional years. Okay, that was my earlier question. And then when we turn the page over to page 3 and we look at the Hope 6 project, this is another address of the Hopes, other than the Hope 6 that's on Old Wilmington Road. I wanted to know why are we? Right here. Okay, so that, are you saying we're not asking, are you asking for? I mean, why are we still looking at funding on that project? What is that? 20 years?
Recommended budget.
So those projects are open. And what we gave you,
Okay,
it has about
All right,
$50,000 or
let's-
$60,000 left.
okay, then, okay, let's look at okay, so I see the answer to my next question. Then, okay, I'm good, Mayor.
All right, so Councilman Hare, I guess to, oh, go ahead.
I still want the answer to the first two.
As you see it, it's about $837,000 in, so I'm assuming these are closed out projects because there's no money being recommended for the 2027 budget.
Yeah.
Remember, this is all one-time money, so that would be 23,000, I guess, from the Day Resource Center renovations, 201 for Merchant Road
Right,
redevelopment, textile, 38,000 remaining.
keep going, sir.
Mayor, I would suggest that because there's no 2027 money, doesn't mean that they're ready to be completed. So there's a lot of projects, there are projects in the system that are open and ongoing that have sufficient funding that didn't get additional 2027 money, but are continuing on.
So these four that this
You
is
are
right here.
What page you on if you can find that?
Page 3,
Page 3.
Yeah, it's a short.
big sheet.
So we'll go Day Resource Center. So all the work is done there, right? And operational, we pay that operationally to the man of the project. So the $23,000, right?
So that 23,000 is what's left over from the restricted other governmental funding, from the state funding.
Okay.
So, I would defer to Chris, but we can close that project, but that funding can't be used.
For certain things.
I believe that allocation, I wasn't here when they did the DRC money, but the Day Resource money was dedicated from the state for the Day Resource Center. Is that not right?
All right, so what are we just gonna do? Hold it? The Day Resource Center renovations are over, so what's the normal practice when they have money left over?
Depends on if it is, we made upgrades to the kitchen. Remember the whole issue about us putting in additional warmers and stuff. Could be, they now want to put a shed out back, storage.
So you can save it for future use.
It's just,
Okay.
yes,
So
but
that's a grant.
but at some point in time, it would need to be closed out.
All right, Merchant Road redevelopment.
The Murchison Road, I believe that was,
Page 3.
on page 3. I believe, and Chris, you'd have to remind me, that's the choice grant money?
No, sir. So,
It's the money in the CIP.
yeah, I was looking for the balances they were talking about, but yeah.
There's originally 2.835 mil spent, 2.6.
There is $201,000 left in the
Right.
project.
So that is money that was allocated for additional acquisition on the cattle sites. So after we bought the Point A, that's what's left over in that project for not just the cattle site one, but for the overall redevelopment project. So we currently do not have an active demand for that money. There's nothing programmed for it other than the money has been allocated by council for actions.
All right. No bathrooms in the
Yeah.
Just saying, but that's 201,000 that he just said. It's-
Yeah, and I was, that's such a fluid project.
I ain't mean to get you started.
Yes, sir, and I was looking at something I could throw that I didn't need. I need everything. I was gonna throw something over at you. You may not have picked up your phone. I'm gonna throw all the piece of paper. But see, that's such a fluid, ongoing.
Oh, okay, so all I'm saying is there's 201,000 that was left over for something in and around that area. So-
But what my concern was, Mayor, and I want to stay right there. Since all of those projects, okay, all the way down, what is it, 800,000? I know we should not touch some of them because, like I said, they're fluid and they're steady moving something all the time. But all the money,
No, we're going one by one. He's almost there.
All right.
So the grant money, we understand, DRC, he just answered about, this flex with Mercury Road, text 5.
Text file.
We know $38,000 is doing nothing to clean up $10 million remediation project. Yes, sir.
So I'm looking at our
Oh,
chronicle.
hold on. I didn't know if you was pointing to DJ or pointing to.
No, I was just trying to get you guys some, I want to make sure we get to an end point here. Before I ask my question, can we go back to the chronicles on the last page? Where is this 2 million from Ramsey Street pump station?
I think
My book's
that,
got all of it together.
Councilmember Hare has asked about that. It's also on your long sheet. And that project appears to be closed out. There's no money programmed for 27 moving forward. I think it shows $2 million, $1.9 million.
It says remaining funds.
Let's take a look.
Go to your chronicles, the last page, appendix C.
Is it 86,
Recommended
306?
project closure.
86,306.
Here you go. Compared to
That's a closeout project.
two on the CIP.
It's $2 million.
Should be the same. You said the fund.
The Chronicle has the cash.
Oh, yeah. So it's got,
Last page.
oh, I can see, it's, just wanted to get the detail.
What's the amount you asked of Mayor Pro Tem?
1.9.
Five.
376.
Yeah,
So is that something that just didn't get done?
So it's just flood back into the capital. It's already, so these projects, the reallocated money went back into other projects and offset the need for 2-cent rate increase. We had this conversation in the capital committee.
We also decided when we allocate it somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where is it allocated to?
It went back in, it would have gone back into the general capital. So it's allocated across all the projects where there's vacant. So,
That ain't okay. So what specifically did it? You don't have a list of what?
no, sir, we don't do the dollar for dollar, go from this project to that project.
So basically, you said these projects will be closed, and it's $2 million that is gonna go back into the general fund, and now I'm going to program it to balance and.
Not the general fund. It went back into the capital fund.
Right, yeah.
And we said, okay,
Right.
so where we would have, so let's talk about that. That's a good question. If you're 4 cents, if you have $8 million, okay, your 4 cents generates $9.6 million. We have $14 million of project requests. Okay. We would take that 1.9 million from that closed project. We say, we're gonna have the 9.6 and these projects that are requested. So now our total funding will become, available funding become 12 million. Because we take your priorities and we say, okay, council, we believe that based on what you told us, you want to do this project, and this project. And we know that your priority is to finish project A, finish project B, and it needs a little bit more to finish it for next year. So we would reallocate that 1.9 contingent on the type of money it is, but if it's just general fund contribution across those projects, so that when we come to council and we say, okay, our project need is 14 million, we had 12 million. Here's where we would recommend, if you wanted to add a penny and do these projects, we would recommend an additional penny of tax rate to do these projects. So what, you remember, we talked with going back to the April presentation, we sat down to prioritize and fund the CIP. We said, finish what's first, or finish what we've done. take care of our assets, then meet the council's goals within that, okay? So when we got down to about halfway through the second thing, taking care of our assets, for all the money that was available through closed projects and all the money that was available through the current revenues, before that was gone. So that's why it came back to you as a 2-cent recommended increase, because the new projects we're recommending to you, we believe were part of council's priority. So we take all that big bucket of money and all those different sources. You mentioned
What new
bond.
projects, Jeff? You didn't have any substantially new projects added to the CIP to absorb 2 million plus still need another 2 cents.
Well, if you're looking at page 2, there is the facility inventory, the infrastructure life cycle plan, parking lot maintenance 2, print shop equipment to operate, replacement timekeeping system. So on this worksheet,
But that's not new though, right?
no, those are all new. That's why they're marked new projects. I was just looking at page 2, the same page you guys were currently on. So the only capital program that doesn't include new Parks and Rec bond fund, because that's finite. The economic and physical development capital project fund, because we're not adding to. But there is the dam safety preservation project on page 4.
So what you're saying is that council, first thing you said is that council said, finish what you have before we add new. So council priorities that you heard us in the strategic plan was print shop equipment replacement of timekeeping systems, infrastructure life cycle system replacement. So everything you just read, that's what you got out of our strategic planning goals.
Yes, sir.
Where does that fit at up?
Well, let's go back. So I'll be happy to do that for you. If you want to go, so the facilities inventory is fiscal sustainability. So take care of the buildings you have, replace the roofs, systems, and whatnot. The infrastructure life cycle replacement is same thing. So take care of
What is that?
the infrastructure life cycle projects.
Okay, so I got
So it's for maintenance. Those are maintenance projects.
Right. So where's that over here though?
That would be under fiscal sustainability.
Okay.
So take care of the assets.
But you fiscal sustainability, where,
Number 4.
that's financial sound.
Well,
Exemplary city services. It's financially sound and exemplary
So,
city services.
but you do understand that that's in the list of the priorities, the way council agreed. It goes from here to here to here. It wasn't just 5 things popped up with A, B, and C. It was ranked.
but I don't think so let me go back, okay, to your point, Mayor.
Mhm.
I would rank those as financially sound city. To pay your police officers, we're going to talk about timekeeping systems. Timekeeping systems, but the mayor's calling into the question saying that these projects don't meet the council's goals.
I'm asking you about infrastructure life cycle, full facility inventory, like, give you an example of infrastructure life cycle. You're about to do it. a
So
minute ago.
roofs and
So building maintenance, upkeep, which we always have that in the CIP. So you got some new roof
you
projects?
haven't always done it completely in the CIP, Mayor.
Okay.
So this would include, and actually, this one is for IT. So that is for servers, cabling, the systems we use to operate the city.
Okay.
So we haven't always had buckets of
So
maintenance.
all of that, you would say is probably number 4.
I would say, well, if they're priority order, then it's number 1, because your police department, your fire department, or Office of Community Safety, any of those folks that touch a computer in the city, for instance, if you're talking about infrastructure.
That's only
life cycle,
270,000, so people don't, we can't touch that.
That's fine.
No.
Parking lot maintenance,
Which one is that?
that, it is 1, 2, 4, 3,
2?
and 5.
How is 2 economic and strategic?
Because it is the downtown, it's parking maintenance that allows us
Parking
to
lot of the city
parking,
hall?
it's across parking lots, Mayor.
Okay.
It's money for parking lot maintenance.
Gotcha.
So what we haven't done in the past is get the city on an ongoing maintenance cycle and create ongoing funding to maintain facilities.
Gotcha.
Mr. Yates, I totally agree with that. That's something I'm proponent of, but
get something that you haven't mentioned. What is City of Fayetteville full facility inventory? That's almost $275,000.
And I apologize, I had misspoke earlier. I said that the 250, and I'll get the answer to the phase 2 city hall renovation. But the 270, I believe that is for inventory of city-owned facilities, much like the school system. It's patterned after the school system, just did a study.
I got it, but is that a must this year?
Well, and so one of the, we can do and go through this entire list, and we welcome it.
Okay, I got you.
Yes,
I
sir.
got you. Let me get to my question. Let me get to my question. That was just something that I found. I haven't even got to my question.
Okay.
My question is, from CIP, you said it was 6.9. We found 7.3 on the board. So that covers CIP, correct?
If the council's desire, yes. If you want to fund just the 27 projects.
Right, I got that. All right, track. So we're straight when it comes to CIP. When it comes to operational, you say we're 2.4 under. If we was to give a 2% and not a 4% increase, would we have a balanced budget?
I would have to do the math, but I don't believe.
I did the math. I think we would.
I don't think that 2% is worth 2.4 million. I can find out.
Find out.
CPA yesterday.
And so,
I'm gonna say one more thing. Is it necessary to have a $4 million ticket for fleet?
The majority of fleet replacement is for PD vehicles.
Right, but does it have to be this year? Can we put it off? Can we sporadically increase it instead of doing what you got? $7.7 million.
for coming this year.
Ongoing maintenance of your fleet is a pay me now, pay me later. If you don't maintain it, the fundamental challenge you have, Mayor Pro Tem, is you're not growing fast enough revenue base. So if you take it out of this year,
Mr. Yates, I got it.
no,
What point I'm trying to
if I
make
could
is,
finish-
I
just
got
let
a
me
car
finish,
that
Mayor.
needs repairs, but my bank account don't tell me. My bank account is not telling me I have the funds to purchase a new car. So I have to patch it until I get my bank account up where I can buy a new car.
The simple answer is yes, council sets the rate, and there will be opportunities for us to catch up. But when we look back, we started the meeting, you and I, and Mayor Jeff talking about transit. When we had transit buses that were leaning and catching on fire. It is systematic underfunding of those things which lead to a larger bill. But the answer to your question for 27 is yes.
The reason I asked that question, because 6% doesn't equal out to the 2.9 that he needs, because you take the rest of it out of this $4 million they need for fleet to balance everybody. That's not reducing all the fleet in half. It may only be reducing it 10%.
How this works in the past and how we can support council best is the first vote that you took, which was we want a 0% tax rate increase. We have shown you what those would cost, some of the options. Staff then can come back and can tell you within the zero on operating, how best to offer up cuts one way or the other that would have the most or least impact to the overall envelope and picture. I wouldn't, that's not.
He did that already.
No,
By
no,
giving us these
no,
two sheets,
no.
now let's find a way.
No,
to
sir,
fund
that's
these
not
two
that. That's not that. What he's saying is for the penny, if you take the penny out, that's not my recommendation.
Right, I know, understand.
That's not the full recommendation. I would never recommend that you pay employees 2%. If you come back and say, Doug, operating, we want zero growth within the tax rate, we would come back as a management team with options for you about either how we could not preserve the wages and what else we would be saying we could give up in the upcoming year.
Let me answer that by saying this. Ever since I've been on council, and y'all know how I love staff, we've given staff 4% every year since I've been on council. Raleigh gave the employees 2%. Durham gave the employees 2%. I think that they can sacrifice this year so we can pass a budget that doesn't do an increase.
And how Raleigh.
Because somebody's paying
that.
And how Raleigh and others have done it, including the county, is that their ranges have moved. Our ranges have not. I looked at it in the budget. Yes, I think it was. I had, in 2016, our police officers were making the starting salary of $34,000. It's not, and now we're at 50,000?
55.
Is it 50,500?
Yes.
Say that again?
50,555.
Oh, I thought it was
That is
55.
47% increase, change, increase. And so when you look at, when Jerry Clip came and he said that how we were looking, our ranges have not moved. And so you have a segment of our employees who are at the top of their ranges or at the top of their ranges. And now the plan is eventually, and so what we hope to bring back, y'all, is that the ranges will move. But in Raleigh and other places, those ranges have moved. And so 2% of the salary in Raleigh, based on the ranges, are different. But again,
I mean, that was just a recommendation. I hear you. I just punched the number. That was just a record. Did you come up with the number yet, Mr. Hicks?
They're working on it. I'll get back to you.
All right, Councilman Hunter.
I have two questions, Mr. Mayor. So I went through the Budget Chronicles and I didn't see it. We asked, out of our total budget, that's going to be 322 million, 322.8 million for 27. A lot of that is enterprise fund. I think 150, 160, 170 million is enterprise fund. How much is not enterprise fund? And out of that number, let's say it's 120 million, how much is already encumbered to pay debt or otherwise encumbered? And then what is the number that we have that isn't encumbered? So I would like to have the answer to that at some point. That's one question. And then the second question, if we look at our Budget Chronicles on page 11, question 27 has a 2.5% cost of living combined with a $1,500 one-time bonus for non-step employees, and the value's 3.5 million. On page 19, question 52, it's the same question. How much is $1,500 one-time bonus and 2.5 increase for non-step employees is 4.1. So I just need to know what the number is for that question. It can't be different when it's asked different times.
and so it was asked, but as we understood the question, how it was framed, that was the earlier, is that correct, Commander? Earlier answer? Worked on that.
Priscilla worked on
Priscilla.
that. But yes, that's correct. It was framed, the questions were two different questions.
How so?
So
I'd love to differentiate
your
here.
question is,
27 and 52. Same question, two different answers.
because the way you treat, the way that it was treated with step employees.
Non-sworn employees in the middle, right in the middle of 27. And then the other one is the same on 52. What's the difference there?
Not every sworn employee is a step employee.
All right. Okay, so we're saying that the 4.182 is correct.
Well, that's the non-step.
Based on the
For non-step
questions from,
employees.
based on the questions from council, additional clarifications. You're asking is what the value of the $1,500 one-time pay increase is $1.4 million. That does not include step employees.
Question 52 on our Budget Chronicles is correct. That answer is accurate.
I don't have that one right in front of me to compare the two. But
In the recommended budget, right, we had 4% and then plus a 1%, right? And we can agree that was 49 million,
plus
4.9
the step increases,
right? And it equaled this.
plus the step increases, yes.
Because last week we said the answer from 52 was only a difference of 326,000, which been erased. But if this is 4.9 and the answer to 52 is 4.18, it's something different than 326. It's closer to 8 or 900,000. So we just need to know what the correct information is so that we're looking at the right numbers.
Well, so that's why the part you're talking about is only the 4%. So the 4% plus the step increases plus the 1% equal 4.9.
Right.
You back the step employees out. back out the 1% so that you're comparing apples to apples.
Right.
The net cost of a one-time $1,500 bonus and a 2.5% salary increase.
Plus a 1%, because you still have the 1% of your number.
Well, to do apples to apples, take that off the table because it doesn't change. The 1% increase value, the net cost is $320,000 more than what it was to do 4%.
Say that again?
If you take non-step employees out of the equation, okay, take them off the table. Right. So we're not comparing them at all. Take the 1% out of the equation because it doesn't change.
You're taking non-step out or step?
Take the step employees out.
Okay, because you said non-step.
We're not changing the step, sorry. That was the confusion in the original question to the answer. That wasn't clear.
So we're taking step employees out.
Ignore step employees, ignore the 1% because that doesn't change.
All right, we're doing the
material.
1,500
So
one
we're
time
comparing
in lieu of.
4% to 1,500 and 2.5. The net difference between the two, ignoring one time, not one time, which I know is your question, Mayor. Ignoring one time, the net cost of those two together, the 1,500 plus 2.5% will cost you more. $300,000, a little bit more than $300,000 more than doing 4%.
I would love to see them. Or show me what page it's on.
Okay, and we can show you. And the reason why that is because $1,500 is more than 4% or more than 1.5%
Got you.
for a number of employees.
Okay.
Okay, so if you change it to one-time cost, that would be the $1.4 million, round number, will cost you to do the $1,500 bonus. Then yes, you will save money on the ongoing operating side, not because you changed the compensation, because you changed the funding source of the compensation.
Gotcha. I would just love a better, more specific breakdown of that, both of those. And then still, can we, by next week, can we have the total breakdown of the 320? So we have on the back of this kind of the, where the money comes from. Can we have where the money's going? Like how much money's tied up in enterprise? How much is in the general fund? And then how much is encumbered versus not? Because we're trying to fit square pegs into round holes in that the budget, the recommended budget is kind of baked and we're trying to take stuff out to put stuff in and make it work. Whereas if we start with a clean slate, so like my budget, my household budget every year, I project my income, I project my expenses. I can't move my mortgage. My mortgage is fixed. I project my utilities, my car payment, that's fixed, like that's encumbered. I can't not pay those unless I'm going to lose my house or my car, right? So there are certain things that we have already financed, right? We've already, there may be a CIP project or stuff that we borrowed money against, correct? So we have to make those payments if we want to keep our credit rating, but then there's some money that's not. We need to look at that, start with a clean slate, prioritize, put our priorities in.
So
That's how I think the budget should work.
the answer to that question, and we can certainly provide you more detail. But when we did the budget the way we did it, it provided you the services above current services. Okay, so translated to your house. If I want to continue to make my mortgage payment, I want to continue to pay for my internet bill, I want to continue to pay my power bill. Sure, internet may be optional. But if I want to continue it, I want to have, pay my car insurance, I want to maintain my car, or if it costs more to maintain, I want to make a value judgment on if I need to trade it in or not. All of those costs for just providing the current services, that's about $215 million in the general fund, which is your ad valorem tax support. Okay. But the budget gives you, it says the only new stuff you're doing. So the only increase you're doing is the mental health. And that was a swap. That said, I reduced my internet speed and I wanted to, so I could have an additional streaming service. Okay. So we netted it down. If the council then says, we don't want to provide that current service, that package, so we don't want to have internet.
Right.
Then you can absolutely say, we don't want that. In our example, we don't want to have that internet, or we want to eat peanut butter and jelly.
We got all that, but so you just quoted a $215 million figure. So is that the budget without the enterprise funds? Take out
That is the
stormwater.
general fund budget. It's
Take
about
out,
215 million.
So how much of the 215 is going to debt that we already have for CIP projects and other things. We need to know what that number is, need to know what salaries are, because we're not going to operate without staff. So and it may be in one of the packets, so just let me know which packet I can find it.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering, is it possible, and we already took a consensus earlier this morning, why don't we just go ahead and allow staff to come back to us with the no tax increase with how we get there, these options that we're discussing, and whatever it is that they come up with, how do we get there, continue forward with services, and to include whatever other concerns may be, instead of us just trying to do what item by item as we have been doing it. Of course, I put my input on that too, and then that way we can see how it looks better with their proposed
Well, here's
budget.
Look, this is tough, right? But the impact of it is, and I think this is where we've got to have some alignment here, because their perspective may not be the same as our perspective.
Correct.
Right? Which is why we communicate. So it's easy to tell them to go back and make numbers work, but how they make it work, and they come back and, it's like to Jeff's point, right? That $1.9 million that was saved over here was better used over here. Now, when he ran down the list, does that align with what I was saying? Like, I think the conversation's got to get back to alignment. The reason that's important is all the stuff that the body said they want to get done. When you saying I'm sick of it, when Jasper Street doesn't get any changes for year after year, it's because there's no money in there for it. So all year long, we're talking about what we want to see, but you don't have any money to support any of that stuff. You've got stuff in here that we voted on that said, granted, to their credit, it was after the budget was done, but we voted and said that we want to help relieve or encourage more sewer connection out west. There's no money tied to it. So all it is a vote, right? And so you'll go the next 12 months wondering why the program ain't wrapped up, because there's no money attached to it.
Mr. Mayor.
And so let me finish this point. That the reason it's important is when Jeff runs down those items to see which bucket they fit in, we don't got a single thing in there that we kind of can point to say that, hey, this year's budget is going to not only have no tax increase, but, OCS, we're going to add 2 mental health people instead of 4. Police, we're going to add, more cameras and so on and so forth. But we've checked the box on safety and security. Economic development and strategic growth. Like, we're dragging in our numbers. Our tax ad valorem rate ain't growing at the rate we need to. So what are we doing to give Chris Colley and Robo the tools they need to ramp that number up? And that's what I'm saying. To make a decision whether we're going to replace print shop equipment, important, not saying that it's not, but where does it rank? Because if we don't get the ranking right, we can send them back and they can say, look, these things that we say,
Okay.
got it.
Okay. No problem. I was just wondering.
So everything on the cut sheet right here is police and fire, mainly, which you're not going to do that for the most part, right? So then other than that, let's say, well, look, so I think
I
we
was
got to
just
be
trying
clear
to-
about the alignment.
Yeah, and I was just trying to see if we could see what their zero tax increase.
Well, it's not just that.
Budget.
They can come back here and say, I found a way to balance this out. What you end up with and what's not paid for is going to be.
Right. Then we get a chance to do just what we're doing then, once we see that list.
But I think they need a little guidance to get us there. And that's why I said it's tough, but they need to hear what we're doing right now. All right.
One more thing, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Let's get to that guidance by going to the parking lot, putting stuff on the
Right.
board on the car, on how we're going to get there. But before we do that, let's look at funding again, so we know what the dollars look like.
Right. Yeah, that's important that we know how much money you work with.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't think we need to even go to the parking lot
until we get the
until,
money.
yeah.
So we were almost down this list.
We need to finish that
Finish,
exercise.
yes.
Yeah, we were almost on this list,
Should have never.
down here on this list, and they were telling us what's free. We know that there's an extra 201,000 Mr. Collins can use for something else. This X5, we talked about that, so we only got 3 more items. Y'all can indulge it for a minute.
Oh, no, no,
I
no,
didn't get my
no,
question.
no,
Okay.
I'm in a hurry.
Carry on, I didn't finish. What I was trying to get to, when we talked about dollars, we did talk about $500,000 in parking. Oh, yeah, subsidized parking. So how does the council want to move forward with that? That's $500,000 right there. That's
But-
a quarter of it.
But, again, now Jeff, you tell me if I'm wrong, we've got to put money into something to make it balance out, and it comes from out of the general fund dollars. Is that considered taking money and paying, is parking fees considered an operational expense?
It is. So parking, that's to pay your contract, so that.
Right, but
Yeah,
we
so-
level that up out of the general fund, just like we do transit. Transit doesn't have enough to operate. We put the rest of it in there to make it
Correct.
solid. So how are you saying that the LGC looks negatively?
I'm not suggesting that they look negatively on parking fund transfer. So what I'm suggesting is if you have a contract and you sign a 5-year contract with the parking vendor, and that contract requires $750,000 a year, and you fund the first year with fund balance, then you have funded, the LGC won't see, the LGC, that's an operating cost with fund balance. They won't like that. But you've also created, and the reason they don't like it is because you created the gap in the following year. But if you back it with current revenue, so you say, and that's what our recommendation was included in that tax rate, is because now you've got an ongoing source to pay for your parking contract. You can reduce that contract cost, $550,000 out of the general fund. You can change the rates in parking. You can change the hours in parking. You could say, we want to give $300,000 from the general fund as ongoing, because that's what you would need to do. But we also want to generate $250,000 from changes to the operation.
Always been a deficit. It's an enterprise fund that doesn't function like transit, right?
Correct.
So we haven't increased the revenue source for transit since 2013. So how are they looking at that every budget after 2013 when one-time money's got to go to something to level it off?
Because we don't use one-time money into transit. That comes out of your tax base. It's recommended in your budget this year, not as part of the tax increase. The transfer to transit is an ongoing transfer from your tax base
Right.
or from your ongoing revenues. If you funded your transit program operations with fund balance, then yes, you are funding operations with one-time money. But we don't, we try to parse, and that's why we say, when we use fund balance, it's got to be that one time. That's why you have that policy, that one-time items.
That's why I'm asking the question. We already have the money that we need for capital projects. We're gonna look at this, let's look at this for operational costs.
But you don't know
You
that you've got all the.
We are company for that.
See what I'm saying? Like, you still got another $600,000 we haven't talked about.
Okay.
That may relieve pressure.
For capital, right? Okay.
So real quick, Hope 6 project, that was done. in
Tell me
the
what you're looking
96,
at,
right? What do
please.
we still got remaining?
Tell me
So,
where you're
Hope
looking.
Six.
Page 2, page 3.
Three on this sheet. I know, it's.
He says page 3, like, okay.
And if I could, Mayor, orient the council to how this worksheet works, just so that will help you speed this along. Appropriation to date is everything that has occurred up to 26 appropriations. Encumbered and expended is everything
That's that.
contracted for and committed and actually expended. Project balance is the difference between appropriation to date, contracted and expended. So that's when you want to know what the remaining money is in a project balance is where you see the remaining money. The 27 recommended is additional funding to that project. And then the total is the appropriation day plus the 27 recommended.
Gotcha.
So for instance, you're looking at Hope 6, it's there because it hasn't closed, but there's no money in it.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
So, right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
down to the
yeah.
next one.
Well, let me ask you a question then. So the project balance of these capital funds, you've already described to us that you've already allocated that money someplace else, correct?
The ones that we are recommending that close. For instance,
If they don't have it recommended for 2027, you've already used the money, correct?
if we're recommending to close it.
Right.
And I wanted to point out, Byron pointed out, and thank you for the clarification, Byron. the money, for instance, on that project we were talking about, the lift station, the pump, that was all stormwater funding. So that went back into.
What did you say
the
about,
bucket.
what did you just
That's
say
the
about?
1.9 million that I was talking about. That's stormwater funds.
So it came out of the
Okay,
enterprise.
so-
Came out of the enterprise and will go back to the enterprise.
Okay, so we, okay.
All right, so, Affordable Housing Fund 2016.
Yeah, so that is money that was set aside in 2016 to acquire property on B Street. We've acquired everything that did not have air issues to it, and to acquire more property would be complicated legally, I guess is the easiest way to put it, to buy up air property. So that money's just sitting there from 2016 right now.
So, okay, so that's before we even start talking about use, but that's 269,000 that hit those back. What was the source of that?
That was general fund.
59,000. That's 59,000.
There we go, I'm sorry.
Yeah, only 59,000.
All right, so
100%.
what, did that have, did that come from a certain source?
That was general fund
General
appropriation.
fund, okay.
So you can see it says general fund PAYGO
Gotcha.
was a transfer from the general fund. Restricted other governmental typically would mean it came from the federal government, state government, county government. It came from some other governmental entity.
Right,
It
okay.
has string attached. Other funding sources would be transfers from other funds. Those are usually not available because they have strings attached. And capital fund balance was where we reappropriated at some point in the project's life. It fell down to the balance where we reallocated existing money.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. So the next one is downtown development. 269, 667, right? And it's also on the recommended project closure. What's on both?
That would be, hold on just a second.
We already went through this part this morning.
You got that from someplace else, because it's pay as you go?
Downtown redevelopment.
General fund? So the 246 was back to general fund?
269.
No, it says balance, 246, 719. Far right, far right.
Project.
Yeah, we're looking at the project. balance.
Project. Downtown redevelopment, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
downtown. I think that's the state.
See, I already asked about those this morning.
And it's number 42 on project closure.
This was, the description is downtown stadium redevelopment site, will construct critical street, curb, sidewalk, plaza, stormwater. Vibrant downtown, foundational work is creating safe, accessible, modern. See, what did we use?
So we've already spent 2.69, 689 on it.
It's for all of the stadium,
Yes.
the development at the stadium and around it, parking deck and all that other stuff.
So the Hurley Plaza, separate.
The Hurley Plaza Park, the monument, if I remember right, was separate.
Right.
The infrastructure, I believe you had at one time, and this is before my time, you had to run some different infrastructure along in the area to facilitate both the stadium, Prince
Right,
Charles,
right.
all that other stuff. Yeah.
So, but it's closed, right? I mean, it's complete.
If it's on the closure recommendation list, it is completed and has been then since reallocated.
Since reality.
Question.
So everything on this recommended project closure has been since reallocated. So it's no need of us going down this because you've since reallocated.
On the
Yes.
project balance money.
See what I'm saying? So why?
But you're talking about on the project balance money.
It has been recommended, it is
It's
not.
recommended, it's not been moved.
Recommendation it has not been closed, it's not been reallocated. It is in the budget and the CIP for you. If you accept the recommendations, then it would be reallocated across.
So we gotta dig it out now, just like the 1.9, because he's saying he's already factored it in to the balancing of it. See this?
And this is, Mayor, what we talked about yesterday during the committee, where it is, staff can come back as we have always done and say, these projects are closed. We're recommending these uses. We actually have developed a form that we're gonna try out for the new ones for project closeouts and all the other things. There has not been a council that any of us have served on or worked with or for that is going to pick a print shop with a piece of equipment over doing something out in the community. And so what ends up happening is, that's why the elevators at City Hall continue to break. That's why the elevator at the police department is broken. It is up to the professional staff to bring you what it takes to not only enhance, but maintain the organization. That is how we don't have facilities for fleet. That is how we don't have facilities for transit, how the bathrooms at transit have not been replaced since it was the Ford dealership. And so this is not, and we didn't get here overnight. We brought this list to council. The work that y'all are doing now, I can't tell you how energizing it is. We love this. We loved it, and that's why we put together the CIP we presented to y'all in April. And in April, we said we need more money to do more stuff. The uncomfortable truth too is that the reason we only have 4 cents dedicated to capital when we did revaluation is because we were all trying to bring back the lowest possible tax rate to get as close to revenue neutral as we could. So we gave ourselves a haircut on our capacity. If we had left the capacity.
How much do we add on top of
Well,
it?
1 second, if we had left it in at the percentage of what we were doing for the capital funding plan, we likely would not be back here right now for this money. But we all agree. And so we look at the tax rate increase as well on the operating budget, the items which are there. Every year, we've talked about it here. If it is a tax rate increase, it has to be a direct relationship to the priorities that council have. And so some of the priorities that you see on fire and police and on parks and rec, those are the priorities. And so if you were going to go out and tell folks that we are raising taxes, or have to raise taxes, are you going to raise taxes because we have to pay for print shop equipment? No, we're going to raise taxes because we have to provide for public safety, economic and strategic growth, desirable place, financial, whatnot to live. Dr. Harris said it best, and this is the process that we've used throughout my career and the time that the mayor's been serving and all the rest of it. Y'all say no tax rate increase. Y'all continue to give us the guidance that y'all are doing now for how you want to do it, parking lot, going through the projects, and then allow us to come back and give you what we've heard. And every year we give you a balancing sheet. Every year we do a balancing sheet. This comes into the recommended budget. This comes out. It's a balance sheet down the side. Because right now, if we tell you that the tax rate is going to stay, what is it, 44.95? We can tell you exactly how many millions of dollars that is.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
But this didn't happen just overnight. And the thing for me is the time crunch is real. And the advocacy that y'all are having and the interest in these projects is great. But for the council as a body, it's going to be a difficult conversation for us to have successfully in August. If you come back and say, where are we at on this and that, if y'all as a body are not giving us direction. And so when we talked about this, and we're out in the community and Jasper Street, want to hit Jasper Street, want to hit Langdon Street. Council gave us the ability to go in and do the, pavement condition study. And we actually have a list of a paving schedule for roads. Now, Langdon Street, not Langdon, Jasper Street is on that list somewhere. And so it's not that because the road is terrible. What was the original plan for Jasper Street? Is it the next couple of years? We looked at that recently.
Yeah, it's on the resurfacing list, I think in 29 or 30.
Right.
But there's a current intersection improvement looking at the Topeka Jasper, that kind of funky intersection right there. Depending on what the intersection improvement says, we may restripe the road differently. So don't want to pave it and restripe it back like it is and then turn around and tell you.
But that's how the organization has put stuff in the budget. But if there's zero tax rate increase, we know exactly how to do that. But we thought we heard you when we presented in April, the CIP, and we told you for 1 penny you get this, for 2 pennies you get that. And y'all accepted that report. Now, is on the operating side, I've shared with all of you in every session that we've had. If you come back and were to say, we're not going to have 1 penny on operations, come back with the recommendations, the guidance that y'all are providing now, the options which y'all are willing to do on the table, absolutely we can do that.
So, because we gotta push this. So, council, as you look through here, and we're almost ready to the point where we gotta start to work through our parking lot list. But again, we're digging out of
of this. So the last thing was Steve and I, what was that, 244, balance,
That is your continuing maintenance and infrastructure. You have a contractual agreement with the Woodpeckers.
and we put so much of that into
The
capital fund.
revenue that we put in the capital fund, and then
Is this over and above that?
no, sir, that is the money that is available there, to be available there.
So there's a, what is it, $1 that we set aside for the
After
capital fund?
50,000 tickets.
Because they've got a committee that oversees that, and this is that money?
Yes, sir.
All right, so, council, if you look in here, I guess, real quick before we get to the parking lot discussion.
One question, Mayor, before you get to the parking lot, because I had a question about the Segra Stadium.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that we have an agreement with them, or with the Woodpeckers. How far, because I remember hearing city manager say something about concrete the other yesterday or whenever in one of our small budget meetings, might have been the CIP. How far do we, the city, go up to Segra as far as paying? Do we go all the way up to the building, or does it matter? We do
So
chairs, fans, electric, concrete.
my
That's a
understanding of this money,
Is that all paid from the city and a punch list sent and we receive back from that, from the Woodpeckers?
so my understanding is this money that's in that one project is for the envelope of the stadium. So it's for things like when MILB comes down and says, you have to do netting, or you have to have a women's locker room, or you have to do X, Y, Z at the stadium. Outside the envelope of the stadium, meaning outside the gates, if you will, there is infrastructure in addition. So we put bollards. Remember our security concern? We put the baseball bollards out. We closed off the street. We did a number of things.
So
So
outside
that
of the
is
stadium, is
outside.
that our city of Fayetteville responsibility as the contract? And
Yes,
on
sir.
the opposite side of that, it's the Woodpeckers, even if we
It's a joint
bid for it to be
responsibility
done,
inside the
but
envelope.
they pay us?
They pay us based on ticket sales. And so they're a leasee. We own the stadium. So they're leasing the stadium for us for 30 years. So we maintain, we have an agreement on how we maintain that and a limitation to our maintenance inside the envelope. Outside this stadium, when there's a concrete issue, the road gets in disrepair, the landscaping, that is considered city space and streetscape.
Okay.
So we take care of that, not as part of the stadium, but as part of our normal maintenance budget that Michael and his group handle.
So the 244, 460, because of what we're talking about now that arises and we can't touch it, it's because of those maintenance needs are gonna come out of that.
Right, and it'll ebb and flow every year based on maintenance. And so for instance, this year, they did a project
I got
that
you.
they spread across a couple of years. So we actually owe them
I got you.
a couple of years worth of that maintenance money because they needed to do it all at one time.
I understand. Got you. Thank you.
Sorry. Councilmember Green.
Jesus. There are other people around you.
Y'all throw something at me.
Okay, that I
You got this paper clip over
know.
here, I can't see this.
I know. That's why I said, on that page 3 of the big sheets and that kind of go along with Appendix C of the Chronicles. To your point, Jeff, about the fiscal sustainability falling into the financially sound category, because I agree, if we do not take care of what we have, we will go from an asset to not having an asset. We will lose any value to what we have, which is what we are seeing happen at county level with the schools. I do not want to be there. Somewhere in our paperwork and in my reading, and I can't find it now, of course, there was some place that we took out. I'm specifically looking at the Day Resource Center and this 23,000. I want to say you guys took out, or you had in there and then you didn't fund it, the upkeep of the floor and the flooring and maintenance contract on that building. So briefly yesterday in capital projects, we talked about the preliminary ideas behind how do we get from capital projects to fund balances that are left on those projects to getting them back to council in the most accurate way? So I'm going to make a case and say to this body that to not look at maintaining that building in its newness is a big mistake to me, because you already have something that you've taken the time and money to build and that we have in our possession, and we need to make certain we keep it in the state that we can best keep it in. So I think moving forward, we've got to look at, well, what do we need to maintain that building? And that maintenance in that building may need to come out of some capital project funds before we completely put them back to capital funds. Because I could certainly make the case that the project isn't finished until we have set up maintenance. So I just want to say that out loud because I'm not sure that we're getting into that. We're not at that level from what I can see, but we need to start thinking that way.
Yeah, I don't think you got any pushback here. I guess
Just ask.
part of what would be helpful is the process. If you can do the flow process from when you decide something needs to be fixed, enter into a contract, and when it hits the council before that decision is made. Like, because what's happening is some of the stuff we're running into, i.e. Blue Street, right? That plans drawn. You briefed us on what you plan to do. Entered into a contract, and then it comes to council for some action. So give us the step to when you decided I want to renovate the vault upstairs. So let me get somebody to draw the plans to I'm going to take the money that's left over from this source and use it.
Absolutely. So let's go all the way back to the beginning of conception, because I think that's where you want to go. So the council says to us in a variety of different venues, right? Whether it's in council meetings, for instance, get out of Festival Park Plaza because we don't want to pay rent in that facility. So that triggers us then to look around all the city facilities. What do we have? Who's at Festival Park Plaza? Who can we move? What can we renovate? What can we do? So that project then came back. We looked at the Fast Center, the blank space we had there that we could build out that could be office spaces. We looked in the vault because we know we have part of our call center sits over there. And we said, okay, if we take some of the stuff that legal has and some of the stuff that the clerk's office has and we store it in the clerk's office and we move that stuff around, we can convert this to space for the call center. So we could take them out of Festival Park Plaza. We looked at Blue Street. We said right now that place, it's unused. It has some issues. It needs to be renovated to make it usable on a daily basis again, hence why we built Senior Center East. But we believe that we could do that and get OCS and John's staff out, plus create community space. So in the plans for that, the lower building gets renovated, becomes usable space, ADA compliant, which is not currently. Then the top building, the upper building gets renovated. Okay, so we go through all of that maturation with council telling us, get out of Festival Park Plaza. We don't want to pay rent there anymore. Then we come back to council and we say, okay, council, for like on Blue Street, we say, before we do design, are you okay with this concept? We want to renovate Blue Street. We talked to a brief conversation, no obligation. They gave us some pro bono work to say, okay, if we just look at it, here's some things we can do with the envelope of the building and how we can stabilize the building. Then we bring that back at a work session as part of your budget, any number of ways to come back to council. Once we believe we have consensus and we have the appropriate funding, so like on Blue Street, you could do the design work out of the operating. We knew in John's budget that he had sufficient funds, and having conversation with him, to do the renovation for his facility. So we said, okay, let's go ahead and start work on design. And based on what council we believe was council consensus at the time, to do the design work. For instance, Fast Center has been in your budget in the CIP for a couple of years. The first time it was in as debt. Well, given our kind of challenges and wanting to do some other projects with debt, we said, okay, let's swap it out for pay-go funding. It makes sense. We had originally talked about that would be commercial space once upon a time. So, but given the council's priorities, we brought that back. So the priorities you give us, we translate into projects. Then those projects come back, whether through the budget, as a new project, through a work session, through a concept to council for you to say, that's not exactly what we want. That is what we want. Makerspace, for instance, before we did work at Makerspace on design, there was a Makerspace presentation done to council that said, this is what we want to do. So that's how the council sees it. Then there are points in time, design work, construction contracts, FF&E. Some of those come back because they reach a dollar threshold where they need to come back. Some do not. So on a larger project, for instance, when they hit the formal thresholds and whatnot, those would come back. So MacArthur Park's a good example. We couldn't contract for the construction of MacArthur Park without bringing that back to council. If you remember the GMP and talking through that $13 million and what was Musco lighting versus what was construction, they come back in a variety of ways. So there's never a point in time, myself, Jody, or any of the ACMs just go, I want to do Blue Street. We're going to go do Blue Street. We're not going to tell anybody. There is a linear path of council gives us a big concept. We look for ways to address council's needs. We put together a strategy. We put together a funding strategy, and everything in your CIP stems from that process. Okay, does that answer your question, Mayor?
Yes.
Let me just hit, Mr. Mayor, before I go to my question on what my colleague was talking about when he was talking about CIP. That's good in theory, but it needs to be practical. It needs to be done. Because now we're talking about a Maverick Park tennis court that's going to cost us 4 times the amount because maintenance wasn't done previously. So if we don't do this and make it practical, it's going to continue to replicate and continue to be the same way. But my question is, can everybody just please go to page 7 before we go? I just need to understand.
The big sheet.
The long sheet. If you go to the third one, North Carolina DOT companion fund. You didn't encumber any money last year. The balance is 200,000 still in there. Why are we giving them another 200,000 to make it 400?
We turned that to, it's not been encumbered yet, but we've leveraged that in almost $4 million worth of improvement at DOT intersections. So it's not been encumbered yet, but we've used that funding to help kind of tip the scale on some of those DOT projects. So we were requesting additional funds this year to try to leverage it again.
So why do we need to put an extra 200,000 in? Is my question.
Matching funds.
So that we can try to leverage that for additional DOT
That's
dollars.
only 2 cents.
All right, the next one is street intersection improvement. You only spent 115,000. There's 159,000 still in there. Now you're requesting another 300,000.
Yes, we have multiple intersection improvement projects that we're working on. One of the ones, what we mentioned earlier, was the Jasper, Topeka, Seabrook intersection. So those are under design. We may have some other ones under design, but that and future years are for future intersection improvements as well as the construction of those projects.
Let's go down to the sidewalk program. We know we've encumbered all the money out of general obligation bond for sidewalks. We're only putting $400,000 for sidewalks, and we're the most least walkable city.
$800,000.
So who came up with the number 400,000? Why isn't it 800 or 750?
That was to do projects out of the new Fed plan this year. We're working on a lot of projects with sidewalks. So some of it is capacity. We've got $8 or $9 million worth of sidewalk projects we're actually working on right now.
That you got the money for?
Yeah, a lot of it's the lap funding and bond funding that we previously received. Those are going to take some time.
I just don't want sidewalks to be lacked because we put an extra $500,000 in sidewalks last year on top of the general obligation bond, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So Byron, you don't have anything that's done, ready to roll. You just need to bid it out.
We received bids on a sidewalk project, for 3 sidewalk projects this week. We received a bid for Eastwood sidewalk projects 2 weeks ago. We've got Right Much currently under design that we plan on advertising out in the fall. We've got the large Skybow Rail Trail project. As soon as we get the easements on that, put that one out to
Okay,
bid.
so what I'm talking about is everything's, all that stuff is done. You just need money.
But we have under design right now, we feel we have the money to build right now. So the future year, the FY 27 would be for new projects.
That's where the 3 million from the preservation program to payment program.
That's your PAL bill,
Preservation.
that's your
That's the
PAL
PAL
bill
bill,
funds
3
for
million.
resurfacing.
And Mayor Pro Tem, if I could direct you to the last sheet that we gave you this morning. Part of the 2-cent increase, there's $6.9 million of infrastructure projects that include additional sidewalk money. It is bike lanes, companion funding for NCDOT, as Byron mentioned earlier, signal modernization. There's a number of those. Right, but based on council, as we know, council wants more of that type of activity. That's, we recommend the additional resources for the CIP. That's the bulk of the additional resources.
So, Byron, let me make sure I'm clear. You don't have any projects that's already designed, already ready to go. The only thing you're missing is money.
For sidewalks, no.
But you don't have your future funding for the plan, right? So
Correct.
the plan's not designed and ready to go. The plan has a number of projects that have no funding, no design. To be able to do the pedestrian plan, you would have to add additional funding.
Yeah.
For design and then funding for
And
construction.
the 890-something thousand that was, you got a geo bond for something else set aside for, to go with another project, like a one-way in project or something like that.
No.
I'm just wondering. But what's the criteria for using that geo bond for infrastructure, street paving, sidewalk,
Yeah, there was a long list of things in the.
that make it eligible?
Correct, yeah.
The payment in lieu of, where is that and where is that used at?
So it depends on what the payment in lieu of, so there, you can do
I mean,
payment.
I
on
don't even know what
sidewalk
the
and
amount
payment-
is. I was looking for it earlier.
Yeah, so if you have the pay in lieu of resurfacing, that can only be used for resurfacing. So I can't take pay in lieu of resurfacing money and.
Do you know, can you tell us what the balance is in that budget?
It's in one of the questions.
I'm looking for it. It's in the Chronicles. I'll have it for you in just a second.
Hold on, I got Councilman Yellow, and then I'll go. I thought I was pretty. Oh, yeah. I hadn't heard from him yet.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being conservative with my comments and my questions because I love the idea of getting to a discussion on parking lot priorities and the way this is laid out. Just wanted to, while we're talking about improvements, when we're talking about sidewalks, when we're talking about NCDOT and our place in city services, I was just in a room with Mr. McGill, Mr. Stone, Mr. Flowers, and a lot of my neighbors. And then also, I think we all can echo this. We get a lot of calls that express a lot of frustration in terms of where our neighborhoods sit in priority for sidewalks, for road improvements. And there's a clear demand for more coordination with NCDOT to make our roads safer and to improve our roads. I was concerned when I looked at the additional penny for operations allocation and see traffic sign and pavement marking and additional funding for speed hump construction on this list, because I wouldn't have said this 8 months ago, but this consumes, in terms of our output and the perception of what we're doing for citizens, this is a lot of it. This is a whole lot of it. These are the things we get calls about every week. And I would ask as we move into a discussion of priorities, that we really think about if we're constraining ourselves in our ability to really meet the needs, the perceived needs and the real needs of our neighbors. I just wanted to say that while we're talking about violence work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to piggyback on
And y'all push it.
Comment,
So I can see. I don't know.
comment ACM Yates made specifically about like maker space. And I know since I've been on council, we've received at least one presentation as was stated on it. And I think that's one of those quality of life things for arts that I think we'd all like to see, but priorities sometimes shift in that in a perfect world, if we could have all of these things on all of these papers, including the stuff that's the recommended for 1 penny, 2 penny, 3 penny ad, if we could have all that stuff within the current ad valorem tax rate, it's an easy decision. But when things happen, you know, you've commented, Mayor Pro Tem, I think everyone's commented that we're very supportive of staff. We'd love them to have, I would love to give them a 5% increase, COLA increase, and the 1% for pension. But as Dr. Harris stated, we can't do it this year on the back of the taxpayer that there's a conflict going on. There's uncertainty economic, so as things shift, right? So it's not that we don't want the makerspace, but if and I'm speaking for myself personally, if the decision is, hey, we have to raise tax rates a half a penny or a penny, and we can get the makerspace, or we just don't do the makerspace this year, we're just not going to do the makerspace this year. That's just my perspective because of where our residents are telling us that they're hurting. They're just an uncertainty. So I just wanted to make that point of distinction.
Comment, Mr. Mayor, I just looked on this sheet again that I didn't realize. We're talking about $400,000 for a sidewalk program for the entire city.
Yeah.
But we want to spend $500,000 for sidewalks downtown. Is that what the 490 is?
Yeah.
Last night, on the papers, on your Monday meeting, at the end of your Monday meeting, we received a complaint of someone who fell and got injured on that same sidewalk. That we have been trying.
But every year we do.
Every year you put an amount in, and this is where y'all are at. And it's, again, we're excited that y'all are at this space looking at each project. We recently did it in April. But when we look at the reason that the infrastructure bond went in, and remember, Mayor, you were here, I don't know who else was on council at the time. It was 25 million for infrastructure. We should have done 50. We showed you last year. We showed you last year and the year before that. Byron came up, we had our work sessions in it, next door. And Byron's question was, have we supplanted the money from the bond? And we showed you graphically, empirically, and with numbers that we've not. The need is still out there. We have $500 million worth of sidewalk and pedestrian and bike trail improvements that we have plans that we have commissioned that we don't have a funding source. And so I bring that up to say that, as Dr. Harris said, I think that if y'all if there's a consensus and you took that vote of those items, we can come back within what revenue that is with options. And so as y'all continue to give us your priorities, realign your priorities here. The thing I would also say before you go to this next exercise, that it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but council did not rank them.
Right.
And nor were the goals ranked as, I think safe and secure was always like the number one, but just to say that, you know, it wasn't part of
But my other question is, are those trees causing us to put money in these sidewalks every year?
They are.
Because the trees ain't gonna go away, so we gonna continuously put money into.
You're actually going to be changing how that sidewalk is put in. Some of the bricks that we had downtown, we take the bricks out and you put down then concrete, right, Michael? And then you put the bricks on top of it so they don't move. We also look at the tree canopy on Hay Street from the railroad track all the way to the market house. And on some of the side streets, you get complaints about what those look like. The tree wells are too small and there is no way to fix that. So we tried to groom and stuff, but they look a little natty. But when those trees come out, we're going to replace those with what, Michael, so that they
better street trees, like the ones that you have in front of the Hay Street parking deck that have smaller root systems.
Guys, we got to push. We've got to get to the board.
I got a
Right.
real quick specific question on those papers. So I get the need for the safety. We don't want people tripping on the sidewalks. Can we do concrete?
Can it be?
Save money?
I guess
There's got to be, we're spending 500,000.
I would love to get, and I may have it in the top of my car last year, but every year there's paving money down there. So the question's going to be, do we have the best? And that's been since I've been on council, it's 300,000 or 400,000 down there for it. And is it the best product, I guess, that we have as far as maintenance? I guess. Conversation for a different time. I got some folks that's been asking to get a break for a minute. we do need to pick this back up at 12, because I would love for us to at least start to get some of the parking lot stuff placed.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm just doing what I
Nah,
said.
I know, I'm saying, you said breaking, everybody started getting.
It's okay. Break is good. It's okay.
All right, 10 minutes.
Breathe.
Right.
Ain't nobody backing up off of it.
Breathe.
All right, yeah, 212, we gotta hit it.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Man,
Gotta refocus our mind.
Are you pausing the record?
Yeah, do you want to mute them?
consolidated and says, this was prioritized, right? Community safety, which we incorporated, police, OCS, all of that into whatever we. Oh, she got
I
it.
move that we excuse Ms. Brenda McNair.
All right, moved by Councilman Hondo, seconded by Davis. Excuse, get your hands, excuse.
Thank
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Come back in 30 minutes.
Okay, I will.
Right, okay. So, remind us they were not ranked, but it was consolidated as to these are the areas of concentration, right? Got it. All right, so economic growth and opportunity, housing, and that's when we talked about mature legacy.
Thank you for letting me vote
vintage,
for you.
whatever y'all call that.
Thank you for letting me vote.
Transportation and connectivity. All right, so as we wrapped up I think we're still in flux with some of the money, to chase to see exactly what we are. I guess we need to visit the parking lot issues that we have. Do we have a list of?
Wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Push the whiteboard back over, please. That one, please, sir. Well, both of them, really. I wanted to see what, because they weren't doing any writing down this morning. And my goal was, I thought our goal was to see what, I won't say what savings, but what one time we could take away and put over here, money wise, what CIP things that we could stretch out, or is it close? I know we couldn't use any of it with the project closed money balance. No, we couldn't do that. So whatever savings or whatever was left there that we could put over there. I also brought up the city hall improvements to phase 1 and 2, whatever, however it's listed. That had a certain amount of money. Could we stretch that out and still have that money? Because I thought the goal was, as I was explaining to my colleagues, since there's a consensus for a 0 tax increase, we see what all the money that we have, what we spoke on this morning, that could be extended out or not done right now, whatever that amount of money is, get what the total is, because it's not the 7.3 mil. Get what the total is and adjust that for us to keep the 0 tax increase, and whatever is left over, if we wanted to add back from the 1, take from the 1 or the 2 cent sheet that we were given, either or the parking lot. I thought that was what the goal we were headed in.
Well, the problem with that is that is prioritized in the way that they're recommending to be prioritized, right?
No, I don't agree, right, but go ahead, sir.
Okay, the list of things that they say you cannot get, if there's not a tax increase, were not chosen by you. It's chosen by the staff.
Yeah, I
You know what
thought,
I'm saying?
yes, sir. What I was saying was, if I thought what we were doing was going through our list and saying, okay, we can hold up a little bit, stretch this out, let's not do this, and then that amount of money, whatever it was, we wrote it down over here or wherever staff is writing it. We went through all of those that we went through this morning. And if it added up to do our services and not do a tax increase, that we would have the money there. If it was any extra money from that amount that we came up with the deductions off of these capital improvement or whatever went out, went through whatever the list is, that's where the additional money would come from if you wanted to go to what was on the 1 cent increase list, what was on the 2 cent increase list, or what's on the parking lot. That's what I was thinking.
But all of that didn't come from the same type source, right?
All right.
So that 1 cent is for operational stuff, which Jeff was saying. A lot of what we've identified is pretty much fund balance savings, or money that would be in our savings account. Part of what this sheet says is that these are ongoing costs that if you don't do the 1 cent, you're not gonna be able to pay for it, stuff out of the savings account directly.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
And so now, part of what we're exploring is that if you've gotten an extra $2,000 in your savings account, and you have $1,500 remaining on your car payment, that you pay $500 a month, it's better to take $1,500 and go and pay your car off, right? It's a one-time thing that relieves future obligations.
From that piece of money you're saying.
From that piece of money, right?
That's what I just said.
I get it.
That's what I just said with all those.
But you can't take $7 million and do that, because all of that doesn't work.
I understand that.
And I got it.
Okay. I think we're on the same page. It's just that I thought that we were getting a total amount of takeaways. Whatever that amount is, let's just say that amount is 15 million.
Just let us get to the
Okay.
process.
And then we went from there. That's all I thought, yeah.
Is that not the total?
Oh.
It's thereabout, right? And there is some, like the conversation was about 4% COLA or two and a half
Right.
plus 15 bonus. So I don't think that's a firm number. It's kind of, it depends on some scenarios. Like what's not there is if we just said, we'll do 2% COLA. Take the bonus compensation out of it. What does that free up in capacity?
And I have that number.
For operational costs.
Gotcha.
Right.
Just over 1.2 million.
So 1.2 million is the amount required,
It's the savings you would get. The two
which is a
percent
recurring amount.
Exactly
is
what
the
I need.
1.2 million. So you could, that would be a recurring. If I could orient you real quick to this worksheet. So on this side, there's numbers to every item.
What sheet are you holding up,
I'm sorry,
please?
this is the parking lot, city council parking lot. We gave you this morning. It has, at the bottom, I have date and timestamps, just because I know we're piling up with paper. So it has the title, the item number for easy reference, the cost. So in this case, cost is a positive. Savings number would be a negative. Okay, so say add back. Then I've added a column for one time or ongoing. To the mayor's point, where there is a one time next to it, whether it's a savings or a cost, that can be used from one-time funds, should. When it says ongoing, that creates an ongoing obligation to the city. And then there's a small note next to it that if we had any more explanation that we could provide to you, and I left you a little space on the side to write any notes you may have, knowing that the mayor had asked for you guys to do this exercise. But that's how this works. They're not in any particular order except how we received them. We also tried to put questions on here. So like, for instance, Mayor, you had asked the value of a $1,500 bonus for employees for non-step. That number is on here as an informational piece. So these aren't additions and deletions in some cases. They're just answers to questions. Councilman McMillan, for instance, asked, what are all the surveillance technologies that the PD uses? That's on here. It's like $658,000. And if you took it out, it would be a savings. That doesn't include sound thinking, so sound thinking would be added to that number because it's a separate line. Does that, and I'm happy to answer questions about it, but I'll sit here and take notes and listen to your conversation.
All right, Councilman Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, we are about to prioritize least prioritize. If we're talking about the parking lot, that is the overflow, basically, right? So, and that eliminates what we're dealing with the recommendations of the 1 and 2 cent increase.
Correct.
So why would we go to the parking lot, which is beyond that, without going to these 1 and 2 cent increase?
We already took the consensus that we was gonna have a zero.
Well, we took a consensus that we're gonna, but people's mind change. And I think after when we look at it
Let
and.
me make sure I'm following your question before y'all debate.
Right, okay.
So what are you asking?
So my question is, the parking lot is what we put on there that is beyond the 1-2 cent, beyond the increases, the proposed increases, the recommended.
Those are things that we want to see that's not in the budget.
Right, right. That's beyond the increase. But we're getting ready to go and prioritize what's beyond the increases and going beyond the 1 and 2 cent increase. It doesn't seem to make sense to me because these are more of a priority than the parking lot because that's the overflow. So why can't, and I think you alluded to it earlier, Dean. You said we could look at the 1 and 2 cents.
So let me
Right,
see,
okay.
make sure I'm following. So the one list he gave us said, if you don't do this, these are cuts, right? They're saying you won't be able to do this unless there's a added revenue source.
Right.
So one is cuts and one is add-on.
Okay, so I'm talking about the 1 and 2 cent increases.
I understand.
Though you call them cuts, I guess, but those are recommended and proposed.
Yes.
So, but we're calling them cuts, I guess. But they're proposed.
They're only going, so in other words, if you don't add extra revenue,
Right,
according to them,
right,
they're going to then come out of funding.
exactly. Yeah, I get it. So, but they are recommended priorities. The parking lot is beyond those recommended priorities, right? So what I'm saying is, why are we prioritizing what is beyond the priorities in the recommended piece? Why do we not go to the?
So, okay, I see what you're saying. Like, so let's just say, for instance, at no point did it come up to say, even though it's on this list, that we're going to eliminate $97,000 for hepatitis B vaccinations, supplies, and doctor physicals for firefighters.
Right, okay.
Nobody in the council meeting said that, but it's on this list, right?
Okay,
You know
so,
what I'm saying?
right, so we wouldn't touch that. What I'm saying is the ones that are on the list that are priorities, and most of them are our number one goal, community and safety. On both of these lists, all of them, the majority of them.
Which is my point. You
Right.
didn't get any cuts on print equipment. You know, update the print shop. All the cuts came on firefighter and police stuff.
Well, it still goes to my point.
Even though it's a dollar amount out of this budget here.
I get you. So we go to what's on the list that is in line with our
My point
priorities.
is, this list was, look.
No, I get
If
it.
I wanted everything, if I wanted you to do everything that I want you to do, I
Right.
told you to call, I gotta show a value to you.
I get
Everything on this list
it's
is
not value, so we don't go with what's not. We don't go with what's on the list that's not a value. We go with what is, and that is the community safety that we have already outlined as our priority. So these are the priorities. Why are we going to the overflow and prioritize that when we already have priorities here? Even if those few that you pointed out are not relevant and are not part of our safety, most of them are. So why don't we pull from them rather than pull from
So if I
an
hear what
overflow?
you're saying, you wanna go over the list of cuts, but
Well, I'm not calling them cuts. I'm calling them recommendations. I'm calling them,
You want to go over what's on the 1 and 2 cent increase before you go over what's on the parking lot.
right, it only makes sense
why does that?
because it's prioritized and it's
Well, the
safety.
priority is if, okay.
I mean, that's the overflow. Those are the things that were not nowhere in the budget, and we were saying, okay, well, yeah, we need to put that on the parking lot. Put that on the parking lot. These things have been in existence for years, and they are more of a priority. Why are we prioritizing those and not these?
Well, I think you get, and I'm coming. I think that my point is that whose priority is. Right?
Well, if
you had to take out.
well, you could take out what you believe is not priority, but based on what we have came up with as community safety in those priorities, then we could say that. So the ones that you said, whatever, print shop, all that, okay, well, whatever, take that out. But there are several that are on there that are more of a priority than the parking lot. And my question is, why don't we prioritize that than prioritize a parking lot that's not of the priority? That's my only question. I understand.
Yeah, well, we.
Even you said, well, let's look at 1 cent and 2 cent,
I got you.
because they are priority over the parking lot.
Right. We haven't got to the parking lot.
Right.
I got you.
But we said we were going to start prioritizing it. So that was my question. Why would we do that when we already have the priority?
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We keep talking about who chose what in terms of what's on these papers. These are recommendations. We should look at them as recommendations from the experts who are paid to make the recommendations and value them as such, right? And if we got something better, then this is the conversation to have that. But the recommendations from the experts is the best place to start, I think.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what brought us here. So, I mean, so let's get away from the language of who chose what and call these what they are, their recommendations.
To the point.
Okay.
If in the state of North Carolina, the governing board has to vote to agree with certain stuff for money to be moved. That's what our guys. So we're supposed to do this. That's supposed to, like you said, it's a recommendation, but it's not a knock against them because we're having a conversation about lining it up with our priorities because that's what we got elected to do. That's why they can't approve the budget without us doing something. So I agree with what you said. Councilman Davis.
I have another point, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Just to Councilmember Ferguson's point, but what we're seeing in these 1 cent, 2 cent listings, we're seeing a degradation of current services. And that's worth noting and I think worth discussing before getting to the parking lot. Because these are gonna cost something in terms of the services that people may expect, and services that have been rendered previously that will go away if we go to the 0%. That might change our conversation in terms of 1 cent, 2 cent increases. So I like the idea of having the tougher discussion about what services will be degraded if we go to 0%.
Well, again, that still goes back to whether the cuts come out of police and fire and parks and rec, or it comes out of another department. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the hard part. If you've only got 5 pennies, they're telling you that we're going to use our 5 pennies, or we're recommending you use the 5 pennies for these things and cut away these things. And so now we gotta have that level of discussion. And I think both of them are kind of saying the same thing. Let me go to Councilman Davis real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I understand your point, I do believe that we do have to make sure that we are still focusing on what the residents are asking. And I think some of these parking lot items are something that business owners and residents are asking, which are priorities. So, like he was, I guess the mayor's trying to say,
fresh new stuff.
Fresh new stuff, but stuff that can be done one time.
No managed.
You're right. My downtown manager, yes.
Hey, I don't blame.
But I think that we have to make sure, let's not say that these aren't priorities because they are. They're priorities of the residents. I guess the mayor's trying to say that the list that the staff gave us may be cuts or priorities that they recommend. Right. But we have but our job is to make sure that we are doing what the citizens are asking us, and this is their recommendations.
Let's just rank them both.
Yeah, well, our priorities are
all of them.
All right, so I think we all get it. That staff makes recommendations. They don't have a vote. We have the vote. In order to make that vote, we're supposed to reflect what our constituents want us to do, what we hear about, and what we believe is needed in various areas. Right?
Right. Can I just add to that?
Yes, sir.
Our constituents asked us, and we based our priorities in our strategic planning on what our constituents asked us. Right? Staff based their recommendations on what we asked them based on what our constituents want that we made a priority. So it comes all along. Now, if there are a few that we believe that are not a priority, I get that. But these are things that have been in motion, and as was stated, would degrade our service or make it at a lower pace. So I just believe that we should focus on the recommendations and make them a priority, because the priority actually comes from us
With that
our
being said,
residents.
Councilman, Ferguson,
Yes.
how do you capture items that are not captured on this? That's what we're doing.
Well, no, I got
When
the,
we're going through all these slips of
get it.
paper, we're
Right.
trying to find other options.
parking lot, but they're not priority over,
Not parking
over
lot.
what's our.
I didn't talk about parking lots yet.
Okay.
This side that we've been working on for 2 budget
Right.
days has been, how do we find savings to do it?
We can do it. Got
They
it.
gave us one set of recommendations, but this doesn't capture everything that we talked about.
Right, no, I got it. But it is what we
Part
have.
of
They have been added. And they
All
are,
right, so
they
we
are
can run through
new
this, if
pieces.
that's what you're
Right.
saying, and then we can get out. So we've already said there was no appetite to add, so I guess we'll just start at the beginning of this. And so,
Where we at?
on the form that we've been talking about, this is penny for operation, so,
Oh, okay.
funds supporting the resident survey. Anybody in favor of cutting that? No. Same resident survey that we've
What
asked
is it,
for?
26?
I'm on the penny
Okay,
increase. All right.
I,
I'm lost.
Get my paper.
but I asked for,
First item, first thing.
whenever I brought that item up, I was asking, could we stretch that out? Maybe we can go to another time, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, to save the 56,000 for this.
This one's mine, that one.
All right, so remember, okay. So
Well, there's
we'll-
two
we'll move to the
additions.
next.
That was.
Funding for police department, emergency response team and tactical office. Go on with that.
Are you on the 1 penny increase?
Yes, sir.
And you're on, okay, so I got the additional penny, but I thought it started on this one.
You gotta pay the warrant, pay the
Right.
contract.
No, I got, okay. Cool.
What's the training center for the new recruits, the BLET?
You skipped one.
You're saying,
Camera network and maintenance of cameras.
Could I ask for all of these, for these next 4, the significant impacts of cutting them? Chief or city manager, if y'all could chime in.
Ask the chief to jump in, but I'm also going to ask Jeff to again orient how some of these ended up on the list. We had a bucket.
Can we do that afterward?
Well, it makes sense to why this is here and not in the base budget. So when we looked and we gave everybody targets, let's say the chief's target was 10. That's what he could fit in the budget. Anything that he could not fit in the budget, he prioritized as if you have to cut something, this is something that we can reduce. So this wasn't Doug saying CIC or ERT or anything else. He said, of everything else, protecting the core, what we have available. So I just want to orient in that regard. Now, as it relates to these items, will they bite and they sting? He will feel it. But the chief can answer questions to you about what those are and what impacts they may be. But they offer these up above what they can get in there.
Each department head did that.
Yes.
So Chief, you recommended to be, if you had to cut something, get rid of the basic law enforcement training?
So, yes, sir. So we're having to try to figure out what we can do in terms of balancing what we need.
How would you train your officers?
I also don't think this was a total elimination of this. This is a reduction in what they already.
Correct. So what we have to look at in terms of where we at as a department where we were doing on continuous training in terms of brand new BLEC cadets. So you see that we're having a shift towards laterals. So then that's going to be able to allow us to stretch our funding a little bit further because we're not putting in a brand new BLEC officer in it for 6 months versus what we can do a lateral within 4 weeks. So that's what we're trying to do to kind of balance this out.
That's only if you get multiple laterals.
Correct. But that's what we're trying to do, sir.
All right.
Site room?
Camera, I guess, camera system. Is that what you're saying, Skip? Already.
What's the impact is what I'm looking for. Impact of of these cuts on your ability to provide services to the citizens.
So again, it's gonna be one of those things where we're gonna have to try to shuffle our resources around in order to meet whatever our cameras, you know, if we can't get like phase 2 right now, that's not funded. So it's just gonna have to sit there and we gotta just figure out other ways of making it work.
So council, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the maintenance part, that's not it would include the LPRs or anything, or this is something different, what you have on
Well,
here
this is maintenance of the overall system.
overall?
Functioning system. For equipment.
I just want the capital size.
So you do the maintenance every year?
There's always this ongoing maintenance all throughout the year, so as things come up.
It's like a subscription service, is the best way to think about it. So there's a cost like your cell phone.
In other words, you gotta
Capital
have.
cost.
All right, let's move on. You gotta have.
All right. PD site rental.
So that's,
Don't get evicted if you don't. All right.
Which location is that?
this is a non-disclosable site. So.
All right.
Which means you gotta have. All right,
Well,
let's
don't
move
get
on.
evicted.
Why is it on the cut?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's not a cut. It's not a cut. It is not a cut. When he was asked what it is in his base budget, let's say 10 pounds, he did a 10-pound bucket. He can't fit everything in it, so he offered up the things that could be shaved or reduced or eliminated. The chief's budget is $72 million, I think, for
Close to 76.
$76 million. We would look to the chief, if y'all say no tax rate increase on operations, we would go back with the chief, we do every year and say, we are willing to allow you to align your budget to take care of 1, 2, 3. That's it, but we had set targets. That's just how it's all.
Question for you. What cuts were recommended from the city manager's office?
We fit it in our budget, but it's,
There's a requested not funded list is included in the capital, or not included in the capital, but included in the operations.
No. Say that again.
There is, so we had $240 million of requests from departments, including the manager's office, including PD, to run the organization at the same level that you're doing it this year. It requires,
Give me the CMO recommended cuts. So when you went to police and fire and parks and rec, belt tightening, these are things that you can do without. Where is CMO?
E16.
So these things are things that are already captured in that part of the book, or these are new?
So that is the recommended list. So we said, and this is why I was trying to explain it. There's $227 million that is to maintain current operations based on inflation, personnel costs, and all those things. Departments, we said to departments, we have $215 million of revenue, $213 million. What can you do for $213 million and prioritize the things you can't do? So everybody else that prioritized the service level 2, what we call service level 2, current services above funding availability or above their target. For everybody else, we took those off the list. For fire and police and what we followed as council's priorities, we said, these are the things worthy before we go in and cut that recommended tax rate increase for, because we know that council's high priority is public safety. We know that Parks and Rec is your priority. So for instance, the chief's ask for rent is a third of Yamil's budget. So Yamil pretty much remained whole because she's all personnel.
Give it
So-
to the city manager.
It is on G.
816.
What page?
What page? 29.
What's the total budget?
29 or what?
H21.
H29. Is there's $10,900,000 something dollars in that?
How much?
So remember, the CMO's office includes the manager, which the total budget for the manager's office increased by $22,000. The construction division, which is down by $410. The customer call center, which is down by $65. Internal audit, which is up by $29. strategic and performance analytics, which is up by 20, and the Office of Community Safety, which is down by 286. So the total manager's office is actually down by close to $700,000 across all of those.
What's the total amount?
The total amount is 7.1 million.
But, so when we came down to extra tightening, there was nothing else included in there on this recommended?
So there is on page 29, there were $325,000 worth of things that were asked for that are current services in the manager's office that were not included in the budget. There was an additional 2.3 million of things that were requested in addition to current services that, based on council's interest, we believed were necessary, such as additional audit positions, additional furnishings and equipment, which we said we would get out of the 2026 year. So yes, Mayor, the manager's office asked for $325,000 for current operations, and that was not funded and not recommended.
But there were no additional cuts once we came back to it. Because this list was compiled after our last budget, right? This is why we distributed it today. Come give us a scenario that there were not a penny, that these are some things that can be.
Now, if that was what was recommended above current service level, we thought would be council priority, that if you were going to raise the tax rate, these were the things that we believe council would want us to do with the increased tax rate. So if the council's direction is don't do the tax rate increase and go into the manager's office and cut an additional $1 million, then there will be, as there already will be, some service impact to that. But we didn't fund the manager's request and put the police department in a tax increase. That, I want to be sure we're clear about that. Okay, so we didn't go in and drop blood from departments to fund other departments.
I think Councilman Davis was ahead of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Davis. Council, I didn't vote to be.
Real quick, so did I just hear you say, Mr. Yates, that the manager's budget was some odd million?
The manager's budget, and I read to you all the different things that are in the manager's budget. So it's not just the manager's office. The total manager's budget is close to 7.2 million.
Right, but my question is, on page 17 of the Budget Chronicles, it has a $10.9 million budget for the city manager's office.
Which page are you on?
17, question 42. So I just need to know which figure is right. You're talking $2-3 million.
I would have to take a look at that. I don't have an answer off the top of my head. I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
All right, council, I move that we excuse the mayor.
Second.
Yeah.
Show of hands. Mr. Yates, I have a question since we're on this page. And tell me if this is funded or not. Capital includes $100,000 for 2 new vehicles.
Right. And you're on page 29? It does. That would be the 2 units for the mental health response.
But we only decided to fund one, it saves us $227,000.
Correct. So there's.
How many 2s is part of the 2-cent increase?
I want to be clear. The OCS is in the base budget.
Yes.
So council y'all have discussed that, but that is that's not in the 1 penny or the 2 cent.
That's in the zero.
That's in the zero already.
Right. So we can save the 227 if we funded 1 instead of 2. Correct. That's why I have that 227 up there somewhere.
Correct. If you wanted to remove one of the mental health units from the budget recommendation.
And I would be, I mean, I know we're not there yet. I definitely would be for that. Trying to build out, if the council took the time to build out a department, I think you definitely deserve to, you have to build it out. You have to take the time to build it out. For 4 employees for a department. I don't know when the last time the city may have stood up a department. But that's a major, major process. And I mean, 2 teams, 4 employees, that's modest. That's modest because I could see actually 8 actually. So, but 4, I think is modest, especially at that cost. And something someone said, that's one of the aspects that we have heard was where's the crisis response. So I think 2 teams would, 1 team to me would stretch thin. I think you could run into a lot of issues with 1 team, 2 teams. At least you can start getting a baseline. I don't want to use a pilot. These are permanent employees, but at least you can start seeing an effect and see. I think that could be a base of looking at, okay, as you build out the department in the future, what does it look like with 4? I think 4 would be 4 employees, 2 teams I think that's sufficient.
We'll discuss it when we get there.
Yeah, but I mean, that's my time to talk now.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could answer Councilman Hondra's question real quick. On page 17 of your chronicles, the difference between what we're looking at versus what's in the book is that what I was looking at in the book is the general fund portion. The schedule that you on question 42 is for the entire budget. So there is a portion that's not, there's a portion of the manager's office that's not general fund.
So the general fund is on page H29?
It's the manager's office, but that's the difference between the table that we were just looking at and I was going through and that table on page 17. They're answering 2 different questions.
So H29 has both funds, the general and the other.
All of these, the budget highlights, the inclusions would be all from the general fund. That'd be correct. But the question on question 42 was, if we give a half percent reduction across the board, what does that look like?
Right.
So we took total across the board, all funds. So it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, if you will.
But I'll find all the information on H29.
You will find all the information on H29 for the manager's office in a narrative format.
Thank you.
All right, council, let's continue to look at the operations for an additional penny. I don't think we need to go over anything that's public safety. Can we move to Parks and Rec? Would everybody agree with that?
Absolutely.
All right, which the next item? Development Associates, facilities of all PD assessment centers for all positions, sergeant and above. Who's willing to cut that? Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you were before me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Make space, take space.
I just want to say, we keep saying cuts, but they're not cuts. These are recommended that we put into the budget. We keep saying cuts. I understand that if we don't agree to an increase, that they will not be included, but they're not cuts.
Terminology?
Terminology.
We also agreed that we're not going to do an increase.
Verbiage is everything. Well, also, I mean,
but these are items.
Language is everything.
These are items that's on the table. So
I got what you're saying, and it's based on what I just said earlier because we were getting ready to do the parking lot, but I appreciate it.
Right. So these are the items that we're discussing. So does anybody have any concerns about the items that I just described?
This is what I am asking is for potential impacts from the departments, from the people who will be executing these or delivering these services.
Chief, did you want to answer that? The impact?
I couldn't hear. Well, so
and that's for all
just utilize them during this last promotional process from our sergeants all the way to our assistant chiefs, and it was pretty much this cost. What we anticipate that we should have our list for this next year and hopefully maintain that. So therefore, that's why it's on this list here, because we don't anticipate a full promotional process. We're hoping that we can at least be able to sustain what we have throughout this next fiscal year. So therefore, that's why.
So you don't plan on doing any promotions, did you?
No, what I'm saying is that we won't have a full process like what we just did this particular year. So our next ranking is probably a major. Our majors right now is the only promotional process that we did not have this particular year.
Track.
Right. Quick question. Is that like a standard practice across the board for other police departments, like to use a
It all varies.
Yeah,
It all
okay.
varies. Really, to be honest with you, it's based on your budget.
Okay.
It's all based on.
So there may be, if you had to, I'm not saying you would, if you had to, you may could supplement the assessments using something.
Internal process.
Yeah, yeah, just wondering. Okay. Thank you.
How does that affect your transfers?
How does that?
Affect your transfer? If you get a transfer that comes in from a sergeant eligible for promotion.
So a transfer, what we would do, we would evaluate based on what their resume is and what they can bring to the table, and we would
They pay off of that.
based on that. So it would be actually, promotion would be a lateral.
Okay. All right, Chief Dove, you up next. How do you, it's the way they want it. Training and recruitment includes 59,000 for new hire physicians and hepatitis B vaccinations, and 14,000 in supplies and various operations.
All right, I want to start, I hate we lost a couple because I'd love to give everybody the scoop. We were chartered in 1791 to provide fire protection, nothing more. So when you're doing all the things you want to do and your leg gets cut off, you have to pull back to your core, which is fire protection. So when I get a number that says we need some cuts, I get it, right? I'm part of the team, I got to cut. I have to pull back to my core. That's fire trucks, firefighters, equipment for the firefighters to ride fire trucks. So when I go to cut, and I think I probably speak for all the department directors, that's how I decide my cuts. What's my core, what comes out of that. So like my new hire physicals, we give them new hire physicals because some folks have pre-existing conditions or something like that. If I don't have money for new hire physicals, then they wait until the following year when they take their physical with everybody else. Hopefully they're okay, and we haven't put in all this money to get them. I can still do it, but it's not good. $14,000 in supplies. I've got dummies that we use for training that are duct tape put together, zip tied and all that. If I don't get funded, I get more zip ties and more duct tape. And I'm not trying to be funny. That's just how we're gonna make do. And I think sometimes people think we're being cute, as the manager likes to say, when I say I would cut smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, stovetop suppressors. Do I want to do that? No. I want every house in Fayetteville to have a working smoke alarm. However, if I have X amount of money, I have to go back to my core and do what I'm chartered to do.
The last one, fire admin and planning research.
That's most of that's training and travel. And that's me going to chiefs conferences, interactions with other metro chiefs. That's our accreditation trips, travel and stuff like that. It's not a core. It's what we want to do. It's what we're expected to do. But at the end of the day, if there's no funding, that's where I have to cut.
You missed an important line I want the council to read, as you would read. The states address minority recruitment to ensure high quality of workforce within the department.
Yes, sir. That's my recruiter position, and the travel to different places, to different conferences, things like that. That's recruitment materials and stuff like that. Again, it's not firefighters on fire trucks putting out fires with firefighting gear. So that's where I have to cut. I mean, my budget's very thin. 90% of my budget's personnel. I don't have a lot of places to go.
Any questions for Chief on these 3 items?
I have a question, but it's not exactly related, but it is while we got him here. So we kind of heard a few scenarios in keeping the budget revenue neutral. Even I think the mayor pro tem asked about raises at 2% rather than 4%. And we've looked at bonuses versus COLA. To me, to cut a raise out would be a bad move. How do you feel? And maybe this I should have asked the chief, or the police chief the same. How do you feel this would affect your department? We've just struggled to get to that number.
I would love to share that. The city of Charlotte just voted to give their firefighters 10% raises. We announced last meeting that we have 0 vacancies and we actually have a waiting list. And our overhires aren't funded anymore because they used to be funded off of vacancy savings. Because we've been given 4% raises, 1% to the 401k. We have caught up to where we need to be. We are now competitive. If we go back to 2%, I'm gonna start losing people. I'm gonna need my overhires. My overtime's gonna go up. And I'll speak for my group at least because I caught it last time. And this is, take it for what you want. The bonuses are great, but the taxes take nearly half of it, and they think it's a slap in the face.
That's for both departments. You agree to, Chief?
Yes, sir. Well, I would say, from our perspective as the police department, we're definitely a little bit better in terms of what they're facing.
Why you gotta hit the
Council's been very generous over the last few years to go ahead and make us very competitive, which is what you're seeing, the results of that happening right now. So, but of course, you know, there's always that constant competing in terms of with the other departments right now. But where we are at right now, we're very competitive. We're attracting these the laterals, and so that's why you see where our numbers are at. So we are good, but there's still, you know, the compression issue that still needs to be fixed.
We're working on the Chief. We don't want you guys to go back. It's 4%. We'll find it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your candor, because I wanted to hear out loud what I felt like I knew. Thank you.
De-escalate, Chief.
Anything else for five?
Yes.
Do I need to dig a hole any bigger or are you done?
All right, up next, Mr. Gibson, you want to come up here and talk to us about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items on Parks and Rec?
Now's the fun.
Park Supply, Park Division is responsible to maintain all parks and green spaces throughout the city.
Where my sign is.
Well, it looks like we're getting ready to cut.
Don't use the word cut, please.
What you're looking at is our basic services to our parks. $93,000 is what we do right now, and that's a level 1 service. Get down to the horticulture division. It's the people who maintain our downtown corridors and downtown areas. That's in our world. Spraying chemicals and fertilizer and bed planting and placing plants and making the new facilities that we have stay looking like they are. Then you have the park rangers. This is at Clark Park, Lake Rim Park. That's the rangers. That's what they do out there in those areas for our nature environment. Then you come down to our urban foresters. They're the people who maintain our trees when they're diseased, take them down, clear our sidewalk areas. Just the trimming. This is our basic services, it's our core. And then you get to travel and training. These are the people who maintain our playground units with the inspections, the money that we use to certify our lifeguards. So, I mean, that's just our core funding. And then you have our small equipment for our maintenance division, keep the floors clean, the rec centers, the weed eaters running. These numbers, we get to this $500,000. It's what we do. It's what we maintain. Yes, sir.
So are these areas that would be eliminated altogether, or are these proposed to be added to what is already existing? If, say, for example, the horticulture division and maintaining all the landscaping, would they no longer be able to maintain landscaping, or they would, but this would be an added piece?
No. This would be a reduction.
Okay, it would be a reduction, but it would still be able to go on. It would just at a lower level.
A very low level.
Okay,
Very.
gotcha. Thank you.
My question is not just specifically for you, but I guess for all the departments. If you guys don't get this stuff, what will you have to take away from in order to balance the stuff that you're not able to get in the budget? So basically,
There is the core budget. There's nothing else. There's nothing else.
Any other questions for Parks and Rec? Councilman McMillan?
Because your your work is high visibility. What will the visible impacts be to the residents of Fayetteville?
I mean, exactly. Just to give you a prime example, we got a dashboard out there now. We collect over 17 tons of trash.
Per.
In the up to now
Per day.
fiscal year. Yeah.
Per day.
Yeah, not per day. But I mean, but it is an unbelievable task to make sure that the level you see now stays that way with no increase. And I mean, we have, and I apologize for a lot of this, we have people working in the rain. Because if you miss 2 or 3 days, it's a mess.
That's true.
Oh, yes, that's right. It's a mess. So it's basic.
Any other questions for Parks and Rec?
Not for Parks and Rec, but I just want to make a statement.
Go ahead, sir.
So, and I know it's 1:00 almost, and I don't know where we're going to be ending, but I just want to, yeah, the policy committee in 2 minutes. But I just wanted to make this, I wanted to ask my colleagues to consider a 2-cent increase. When we looked at these and what the chiefs have given us, and it will continue to do the same thing, Mr. Gibson, it's evident that these pieces are necessary. Now, if we could find that funding in what has been outlined, that may be excess that we can use, then that would be great. But I believe that we should consider strongly the recommendations of the 1 cent and 2 cent increase. I know we don't want to see an increase. I know it's 2 cent, which is that's 2 cent out of every $100. Is that it? Okay, so it's basically $20 per 100,000. Would that be correct? $20 per 100,000. That's not. I know can be a lot for some people. That's about $1.75 a month, and I get it. But I don't think that is. I don't think that is too much to get the services that we need. And I would just strongly ask my colleagues to consider a 2 cent increase.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think to my colleague's point, we didn't take a binding motion. It was a consensus motion. I think most of us would like to see an approved budget that we can all live with without an ad valorem tax rate. However, to get everything we need to get, it may require 1 cent or 2 cents. So I don't think we're going to solve that today. And being that we have a committee meeting, I would move that we recess this meeting till 10 o'clock Tuesday.
Hold that thought. I want to finish the sheet before we move forward. We got 3 more items, finance and 2 public services, and I'll come back to you. Ms. Tiffany? Oh, your item, contract services. Fiscal year for assistance with discounted use of PPM and reconciling closing projects, completed FEMA closeouts and audit assistance, so forth.
Yes, sir. So without this service, we will be able to maintain, CBH has offered some support from a consultant standpoint on some outstanding old items that has been lingering that needed to be closed out. They've also offered some audit support for us. And so right now we've been utilizing them for audit support in the upcoming year, but also from a training mechanism to help us in getting staff trained so that we can take on and assume those priorities going forward.
Our audit helps us save money for that.
It does in terms of our credit rating and how well we do as it relates to our financial position.
Any questions for finance? Public services, the last two. All right, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Sheila.
So good afternoon. So very similar to Mr. Gibson, many of the items here, we already have a little bit of funding. What we've looked at over the last couple of years is that we have our needs far exceed the funding. And so we have provided for a little bit of funding for these line items, but there is much more need. And so the little bit of funding is on your base budget, and then the excess is sitting here. Specifically, for example, the sidewalk repair, we have no funding from what I understand. That is a line item that we had to cut completely. So I'll let individuals for my different divisions talk about the specific line items. For example, I know that in on-call traffic signal repair, we have some money, but we don't have all of it. So the 15,000 is a little bit of a cut from what we have. We have a little bit to get us through a little bit.
Essentially, we use that money to stand up traffic signals because we don't have the staff or the equipment to be able to do so. And we're required by contract to respond in a certain amount of time. And essentially, this is standing them up whenever lightning strikes them. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're out there with PD. It's a public safety.
Gotta have it, huh?
Sidewalk repair, this is a full cut. We don't have any money position for any sidewalk repair.
Did we have any last year?
Did we have any last year?
Did we have funding last year for our sidewalk? Yes, sir. Don't quote me, I think we had about $250,000 for sidewalk.
And we wanted to use the 50,000. They haven't asked us for 250.
We had to choose savings somewhere.
So that was a cut.
From our ask last year.
That was an
yes.
adjustment. I'm sorry, that was an adjustment.
You get
So as much as we talk about sidewalks, as much as we talk about these walkable cities, we're reducing, fixing, installing sidewalks.
Well, this is
No, sir,
this is
I
not.
want to say this again. That list, 1 cent, is not a reduction. I believe those are vital services, and what I've told you consistently is the revenues do not support the vital services. But what the 1 cent shows is that for the 1 cent, these are the things that we're able to maintain. They're fitting your priorities, and they're consistent, with what the direction, the trajectory we're on. We have not the chief has not recommended getting rid of his developmental associates. He's got to have that because we already have a challenge from a promotional process that was using a trained firm. That if we have to do it internally and Jerry's not here, he doesn't have the capacity to run that. And so this is not a recommended, there's no cut here. He had a 10-pound bag, he couldn't fit everything in it. He said, if I have to, if everything else happens, these are the things which are least priority to my core, as Chief Dove said. Yeah, that's it. So Sheila needs them. They need them. Michael needs his.
More than 50,000.
And yes. And so, but yes, sir. But Sheila's got 2 sheets. It's the 1 sheet you had, and it's also.
And I've got the 2 cent.
Let me do a quick recap for today. Mr. Yates, I think we're good on CIP at 6.9. We have 7.3 on the board. We should be fine. Operating budget is 2.4. I guess we have to do some magic to see how we can make those numbers meet. It's already been stated that 4% and 1% for 401k is the way to go. Fix those numbers and come back to us and see what.
Say that again. So I don't think that there was consensus.
Well, it's not consensus. There was just recommendations. As my colleague said, one recommendation was 2.5 with a $1,500 bonus. The other one was 4% with the 1% 401k. I think those are the only 2 recommendations I've seen in the packet, correct? 2.
So if y'all are, the original motion that was on the floor was 0 tax rate increase. If y'all come back on the operating side and say, fit in as many things as you can from the list that you just covered, 1 cent, and come back with options, because I didn't hear anything on this list on the 1 penny that the council said we don't want to do. Which means that we have to offer up something in the base budget that we're already doing to offset this 2.4.
Find that for us so we can rehash it.
But I also heard some other stuff. So we can bring you any number of things, but we are.
Let's start there.
They'll tell us to.
Can we do both and, or do we have to do?
I can tell you to find $2.4 million in the base budget. We would, even doing creative things such as bonuses and things like that, it still does not address all of these, but we will come back with that. We'll come back with that list. That's what we're required to do. We can also come back if there's a desire for something else. We're running real close to
the 22nd.
On Tuesday. Correction, give us on Tuesday. The agenda is published on Wednesday for your meeting.
That means we got to be locked in tight come Tuesday.
Yes, and y'all haven't even gone through the parking lot, or you're going to do anything on the parking lot?
We're working on that, depending on the recommendation that you bring us back.
I don't see us going.
Can I?
Councilman first.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Were you saying, just for clarification, you were saying we found 7.3 million?
I think we're good when it comes to CIP.
And that will.
We're talking about operational costs that's ongoing.
So are you relating to the 2-cent increase?
No, this is zero.
Okay, so what you're saying is that will only satisfy just
the items that's in the CIP. We still haven't found 2.4 for operating costs.
Okay, so what you're saying is none of the things that are included in you're only trying to rectify the 1 cent increase, correct?
Which is really zero.
Well, I'm just asking.
Yes.
That's so we're not even looking at the 2% increase. I would ask my colleagues to do that because they're just as important as what our leaders just stood up and told us, that they're extremely important. So
we don't have to do anything for that. They already given us.
They have to give. No, I'm saying I would ask that we look at that. You're looking at the 1 cent increase in rectifying that.
No, it's not a 1 cent increase. When it says an additional penny, we're talking about revenue.
Okay, well, however you're talking about it, these things are not going to happen if we don't increase the rate by 1 penny. Yeah,
they're going to find the money for this.
They're going to find the money.
So
That's,
it's not-
no, sir.
It's gotta be. If you tell us to go back and to find.
Because if you don't do that, that means that we just say, okay, we're gonna do a 1 cent increase and then fund everything in operation. That's not what I would.
No, sir. And again, that's why we show what you can get for the additional penny. If you come back with zero, which is the direction we have from the first vote that you took, we would carefully look at this list again.
We just went over.
We just went over. We would also look in the base budget with no tax rate increase, and we would see what we could adjust up or down. We would do that, but we will not be able to fund everything on these three budgets.
Yes, the illness. I got it. I'm tracking 100%.
I'm tracking, so
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Anybody else tracking?
Can I ask for clarification real quick? So these items have been information request at this point. There's not been, other than the motion on the Peter floats.
That's something that we're doing.
Right, so you said we've disposed of capital. We put these things in the parking lot because these were items just like the parking lot. So I just want to be clear that we haven't taken any of those things except the Peter floats piece as direction. These are all parking lot informational points.
What direction do you need so we can confirm the Peter floats?
Well, the Peter float, you gave us direction on Peter floats. There was a consensus motion on that.
There's nothing else.
But any of those other things, for instance, in that list, you have
We haven't got there.
terminating makerspace
We haven't got there.
as one of the items that takes you to 7.3 million. There's from the list perspective, that sits on the parking lot as a possible cost savings.
But once we get everybody here, that's a quick consensus.
That's fine. I just wanted to be sure I was clear on what your direction was, because you said we had disposed of capital. That, I want to be clear that that's
For
not
today.
exactly.
For today.
Okay, thank you.
We already know that.
Perfect, thank you.
Last plea and call for a 2-cent raise, increase that is only $20 per $100,000. If you look at that, at the 2-cent increase, you look at public safety radios, you look at bike lane program, you yourself just said we're the least walkable. It is one of our priorities. Why would we not look at it if it's recommended? NCDOT bike plan update. Oh, I mean, everything on this list deals with safe and secure community safety, which is our priority. So again, I would ask that we at least look at it. And we could do the same thing we're doing with the 1-cent increase.
So the direction then is 0, and is there something else that you want to see on Tuesday? I mean, is it 2 cents?
It's gonna be Wednesday, I think.
It's gonna be Tuesday.
Is it 2 cents? Is it
County city liaison, economic
1
development.
cent on operating and 1 cent on capital, or is it 2 cents on?
Whatever's on these two lists, the one that you get. That's my.
Don't tell us.
Tuesday.
Don't tell us.
Well, could you do, that's why I asked, could you do both and?
We would do both and, but again, for us to do the and, if y'all are going through consensus, can say you want those 2 options, then we already have the 1 option, which is 0, but if you want something else that is.
Well, you already gave us the list of the 2 things. You have nothing good with what we already have.
Well, we can prioritize it like we should be doing. Like we just did when we called everybody up.
We can do that. We get a consensus vote to do that. We can do that just like we did today.
And I think that that's, I think I understand, but if you can state it in your words as to what it is. It is, 1 is 0 on operating capital, which was first consensus. What I think I'm hearing you say is, don't cut 1 penny from the operations, and don't cut but 1 penny from the capital. I think that's what I'm hearing you say, because the projects that you listed, were those on the capital? Those from the capital.
The projects that I listed, yeah.
Capital. I think that's what I heard. Now, again, if that's not.
Operating in capital. Yeah, it's on operating capital with the 2 cent. Yeah, capital allocation, but it says, okay, gotcha, yeah.
But also on the consensus of the 0, everything that we have spoken on that can possibly be adjusted as what you're going to bring back to us. One of, I think the very smallest thing was, I remember was the survey. That was just one of the, we can kind of sit down or pull it out for, I don't know if it's done 3 years, maybe we can go to 5 years, however. So statements like that, which there were many around the table, so I'm assuming that the ladies have captured that. You're going to bring that back to us with whatever the adjustments or the numbers look like on the 0. And
so you're not going to take any of these things in consideration?
That's capital. We're talking about operations.
Operations, capital. That's capital.
Okay, but you're talking about only operation. I'm talking about operation and budget. But are you going to?
Well, there, the list that you just went through for the departments that came up.
Right. No, I know that was.
Yeah, most of this will not be in 0. Because
Right. Yeah. I get that. What I'm saying is when you bring that back to us, even if you do it with the 0, are these going to be factored in?
For those, yes, some of those we would, for instance, the Peter floats, if that frees up $3 million, then there may be an opportunity to figure out where that is the timing. Again, that obligation doesn't go away. It's just when you have to honor that obligation.
Yeah, right.
Well, so if you're basing it on a 0, then, and you're factoring this in, Of course, there's gonna be additional funding, so where would you pull that from? Would you pull it from the 1 cent? Would you pull it from, you know what I'm saying? Because that's the whole purpose of freeing that money up to fund other things, right?
There's two different types of funding.
I know, but I'm saying, I know there's capital, I know there's operation.
So looking
1 cent and 2 cent. So my question is, if you find the money in here, where are you gonna apply it?
You mean for capital or for operations?
Both.
Both. Hopefully, so we can fund everything in capital, so we don't have to raise taxes. 2 cents of it was for capital, 1 cent of it was for operations.
Okay.
That's the purpose of that funding.
So we will take away 2 cents, we can fund everything through capital, if we can get the $7.3 million.
Right, if you can get the.
So that's where, yeah, we good, we got you. But let me just make one more before we close out, Mayor. Has there been a conversation, I mean, where are we on this? I know you said there was a conversation, but has there been a conversation where, I guess, a memorandum or the contract would be signed and sealed? Because that was what my 2 meetings ago, my concern was for the Peter Flouse. Where are we with that?
To the attorney, to that board, not to do it because the contract has to be renegotiated for the money not encumbered. Because once you sign a contract, once you make a promise, because we haven't signed the contract, he encumbers the money.
So since that first when the suggestion first came, has there been any discussion with him so we know that that's somewhere where we can head? Because there's no use to us to keep talking about that. That's somewhere we could head if that discussion hasn't happened. He says, "Oh yeah, we can do that," and then you all already started getting it typed up and sent to him.
We've had that conversation. We had a Zoom
With him.
With him. We had a Zoom meeting with him. He expressed that he doesn't need the money this year.
Right. So,
but according to staff, once the agreement has been made, they have encumbered the entire amount, 5.7.
Depends on the contract.
But he hasn't even signed the contract.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's what we're discussing. How can you encumber money without you signing the contract?
Because council took action and appropriated the money. That's what bound the money as the appropriation.
I understand that we have, which I never did like that, so I don't want us to kick that again. I never did like that. We put an allocation on a non-contract binding agreement and held up some money, especially that amount of money. But I don't want to throw no rocks at you.
The mayor's intent is to go back to him. And let him know
Yeah, but I thought, so where are we? We hadn't started that conversation?
Okay.
Well, when we gonna get that signed?
Well,
Because how we, if we trying to do our budget, how we gonna move to get there if we're not sure about this and it's not signed yet, Mayor Pro Tem? Ma'am.
Yes, sir. Councilman here. Mr. Floats did meet with us last week. He indicated that he would not need the full 5.7 million this first this upcoming fiscal year. He said about 12 to 18 months, he should be good.
I'm aware of that.
So that is where we are. We did get a message yesterday from outside counsel that Mr. Floats is going to need to do some restoration work on top of the deck before construction begins, and so he may need something. He didn't say when, but I feel confident in saying, based on the conversation we had with him the other day, that he won't need 5.7 million.
Yeah. And so even that small amount, whatever it is, once again, I'll say we'll put in the cart. The cart is pulling the horse. We need to have that agreement done. We need to have that agreement done. Whatever the amount is, whatever it is he needs.
I guess I want to make sure that we don't have any hiccups. He can say right now, out of his mouth, he don't need it.
Right.
We need to make sure that that's set in stone so that we won't try to be finding money outside of the budget season. So how can we make sure that? we know for sure he doesn't need it. I know the mayor can have a conversation, but it's not in writing.
We didn't have a contract. So really, we had the whole 7.5%.
Yeah, but it's already.
We know, guys, let's just get it done.
I'm waiting,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for city attorney to respond. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Councilman Davis. It's really with Mr. Floats. I mean, he has to do what he has to do to secure his financing. Part of his financial stack is, he's anticipating a loan from the city. He needs to get what he needs to get to the city for the city to issue a loan commitment letter. Once the city issues the loan commitment letter, a loan agreement will follow. So we're waiting on Mr. Floats.
So, in your, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So in your opinion, just piggybacking on Councilman Hare, that may end up needing, that we may need to actually consider not even having that on the table without an actual agreement. Anything in place to say he's agreeing with that, because I don't know if that's gonna occur even before we finish this budget cycle to do that. Would that be a fair statement? I mean, I know you can't really say, but I mean, is it advisable? Let me put it, it's advisable to have something in writing, like he said, that says, he says, okay, I will not need X, Y, and Z, so that we can actually consider it in these budget considerations. Because if not, to me, it's like you're taking a chance. You're taking a chance.
I guess to piggyback on both, what's the likelihood we get an agreement by June 30th?
There you go.
From Mr. Flores, based on your,
A loan agreement, probably not likely.
the agreement transferring PCH's interest. Wouldn't
The closure of their deal?
The closure of their deal, but wouldn't they also have to sign something, wouldn't the new group have to sign something with us, with the city?
We do have a development agreement. In the development agreement, we speak about a potential loan in the amount of 5.7 million. That's all we have.
With the new group.
With the new group.
So can we just send them a memorandum that what we're looking at for budgeting purposes is 2.7 million in fiscal year 27 and 3 million in 28?
Once we bring that item back on the 22nd, right?
Just as a memorandum, so they know what we're prepared to do.
That's the direction of council. We'll do whatever council directs.
All right. Once we agree on something, our money is already encumbered with or without contract. You can also look at the flip side of it and say, okay, maybe we don't get a contract till June of 2027. Now you just had $5.7 million sitting there not being used.
Right.
So you can look at it on both sides. Because this has been going on for years. So. All right, there's been a motion.
A motion. I need to amend it for Wednesday, 10 a.m. We got 2 meetings
Oh,
on
that's
Tuesday.
What was the motion?
Come on, do what
We
anybody
have to look
wants.
at our calendars to recess this meeting to reconvene, either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
On Monday, my birthday's Monday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, we got county city liaison and business.
That's state
What time is that?
Wait, hold up, everybody.
So we're not gonna give OSHA any
It says
direction.
right on.
Tuesday,
That's what I'm.
Wednesday
county
out.
liaison is at
You can't do
1.
Wednesday.
Mr. Manager, would
I
it
could do
be
afternoon,
possible
but
to
I
hold the
can't do
meeting at
morning.
9 instead of 10 on Tuesday? Hopefully we'll be finished by 1.
Tuesday, I don't think the mayor will be here. Mayor won't be here.
9 a.m. on Tuesday, the 16th. He has a prior commitment.
Wednesday?
You said Wednesday afternoon?
I could do Wednesday afternoon. I can't do Wednesday morning.
What time Wednesday afternoon?
Wednesday at noon?
1?
1? Or
1.
We do 1, everybody eat before they get here. We don't have to spend money on food.
That's right.
That's right, 'cause they have to get the agenda out.
For Wednesday?
Yes. So it's have to be either Monday or Tuesday.
Monday.
Monday after, but I got my radio show Monday morning.
Even if you did Monday, the number crunching to prepare ordinance for a $320 million organization would be nearly impossible by Wednesday, even if you did it on Monday. Not only once you pass it on the 22nd, staff has to then upload that in the system, so come July 1st, we're able to spend money. We are And so when we talk about the direction before y'all adjourn, that I want to make sure that we are clear on. 0, get as much as we can based on what we've heard in recommendations into operating. 0 additional for capital. Fund as much as we can from what direction we have. And right now, the only thing we have strongly is $3 million freed up for people.
Yes, right.
Because you have not said we're taking makerspace off the list. You've not talked about the other, which is number 3.
Closed out project.
Projects, we will capture that to the best ability within. So on the capital side,
The vacancy rate?
the vacancies, yes, we can do that. And again, just that cuts both ways because how the vacancies we're going to work for this year.
I'm just going by the calculations that Mr.
I got you. How that was going to roll this year, that also then means that your fund balance did roll, which you'll identify later. So you can't take the cut twice, I guess what I'm saying. So that's that direction. So I think we're all hearts and minds are clear on that. Is there anything else?
Let me add one thing to that. Can we get a consensus from everyone to take makerspace off the books? Anybody objects to that? So that he had clear direction on that $450,000
For fiscal year 27.
for fiscal year 27.
So you're taking the partial project off?
Which is the parking lot.
That's the parking lot and the stormwater improvements around the building with the $1 million investment that.
Say that one more time.
So the total project is 1.6 million remaining. The $450,000 that was added for 27 is to do parking lot and drainage improvements around the facility.
Okay.
So
Take
is
that
it to
off.
take the entire project or to take just the 450?
Just to take the 450.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Got it.
Councilman Fletcher.
My final plug, I think the consideration is to keep it at 0, but to look at funding some of the things that were just discussed to us that we know are very important to our community, which is operational. Am I clear on that?
Is that 0 or 2 cents or 1 cent? That's what we need. That's what.
Right, but I'm saying right now, they're saying the consensus is 0, which will, in a lot of instances, not even include, it's not going to include, you already mentioned that, everything. And we know everything is important. So I think it's important that we at least consider that. And I would also consider doing the same with the 2 cent, because it's not the full thing. You're going to base it on, I guess, the need, the desire, our desire, as you look at that 1 cent with the 0 increase, correct? Okay, so we're tier 1 for a reason. And we're the only tier 1 city.
County, it's a county designation, get the
Right.
verbiage right.
Yes, it's a county. Okay, it's a county designation, but it's as a result,
But
we
it
are
is-
the largest in the
But it
county.
is a county.
We make up 3/4 of the county.
We're the only
So-
city out of the top 10, the 10 largest cities in North
Exactly.
Carolina to be in a
Out of
tier
the
1
top
county.
15 largest cities, we are the only one that's in tier 1. And there's a reason. And the reason is because
It's not
of
'cause
some
our
of the
taxes are too
decisions
low.
that we make. And at the end, sometimes it costs us more. There were several instances where you all said, well, now we got to pay 4 times as much because we didn't give this, we didn't present this. This is going to be the same case. We're going to end up paying a lot more because price is going to increase, because something's going to fall. I think it's at least incumbent upon us to at least look at being able to do it with both the 1 and 2 cents. That's all I'm saying.
My question is reference to the scheduled meeting. I need to ask Mr. Hewitt, but we can vote on this makerspace and then.
Yes. Show of hands, who's willing to take 450 off the makerspace for 2027?
Is 450 all the money budgeted in 27?
Yeah.
That's 450. Okay. All right, that is
Yeah, I'm not.
In the 2
I don't
cents.
7-1. So that is
Michael said he was
7-1. Opposed is Councilman.
Hold on a second.
Was Councilmember Jones in opposition?
No.
Okay.
No.
What's the total budgeted amount of all the pots of money for makerspace in 2027?
1.6.
1.65.
So let's take all of it. We're taking one of it off.
This is just for encumbered for 2027, it's just for.
It's all for 2027.
No, it's not either.
The 425 that you see, the additional,
I just asked that.
it's 225. The 425 is what was contemplated in the 2 cent tax rate for capital, additional.
No, it's a reallocation.
But is the rest of the 1.6 in the no tax rate? How much money is going to be
Project
spent in
has-
2027?
Already has appropriation. The total appropriation was $2 million. You've spent 400,000.
How many is going to be spent in 2027?
We're going to do the project in 2027. The additional funding for the parking lot and the stormwater was an additional funding of $450,000 from closed projects. Well, that represents 1.6 million on the board, kills the entire project. If the 450,000 just doesn't do the parking lot and the stormwater improvement, which was new money, additional money added to it and recommended in 2027.
Stormwater part of 2027 is 400.
How many of the 27?
So that, it'd be futures, not for 2027.
Yes, there is. There's
We just
money there
voted,
for
no, if you
27.
don't give them the 450, that means they won't do the drainage stuff in
That's right.
2027.
If you don't do the 450, we will do the building, we will do the
You're
build
doing the
out.
building in 27.
We're getting ready to bid it out. If you take all 1.6, the project is effectively dead.
It's not dead. It's just not happening in 27.
There's no money for it. So it's a
Yeah, we could do it in 28. You're still spending 1.6 million. What are you talking about?
Fight for my baby.
It's crazy.
It needs to be 1.65.
Be tier zero.
You'll spend 1.2, you're not going to do the 4.
I see.
You
So
should.
the point is,
They're gonna be tier
it's a
zero.
$2 million project. We already covered 400,000. The 450 part was just for the drainage storage around the building. So the 1.2 is just to construct the building in 2027?
yes, sir. So there is still, the project would be to do the project as conceived. As that project, council took action,
Hey,
I want to say December to put that money in the
So
project.
let me just say this. If we took the 450 for the stormwater project for the makerspace and added it to the CIP, and that gave us enough money, we could still do the building. But if it didn't give us enough money to cover everything in the CIP, we could take the 1.2 from the makerspace, add it to the CIP to cover everything and kill the project.
If you don't want to do the total makerspace project, you could get 1.6 million. If you don't want to do the new project,
So this would be.
then it's 450,000.
This would be my motion, that we kill the makerspace for the stormwater for 2027, for them to come back to us whenever we decide the next meeting will be, see if we have enough money to cover the CIP. If not, we can always use the additional 1.2 million to cover.
what's the purpose in deciding this now? We're not deciding any of these other things. So why is it important
Because
that we
he needs
decide this now?
recommendations on the 450.
They can plug that number in there in a make-believe world. I mean, we're in the make-believe world right now.
Yeah, plug it in, plug it out.
The only direction is 0 cost capital increase and on operation. And we will bring you back a budget based on what we've heard that facilitates that. Trying to fit in as many things from the CIP list, freeing up potential savings that we can fit in, as well as on the operations side, freeing up anything from the list here or redefining priorities to come back with 0.
The 1 cent list, right?
All right.
That's where you're talking about pulling from?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the mayor here?
Gotcha.
He will be here Monday, but he has a 9 a.m.
How about 11 a.m.?
From 10 to 12.
11
So can
on
we
Monday.
recess until Monday from 10 to 12?
11. 11 till whenever.
Can't do that.
Yeah, and he has got 2 days. We can do
Look at some of them 2 cents.
I can do 10, she can't do 10. We don't want to do it at all. Monday.
Sometimes you gotta do what,
Huh?
No, I'm, no
We can't
shade.
do it Tuesday. There's not enough time to do it Wednesday. Anything- Can we do tomorrow? Can anybody do
No
tomorrow?
Friday.
I'm free tomorrow. I will clear my calendar.
Can we do tomorrow? 10 to 12.
I'm good till 2 and I can cancel
Yeah,
the
I have an
2.
appointment at 9. I should be here at 10.
we have a presentation.
No, we gotta talk.
What time can you do it tomorrow?
See, after that starts at 10.
We can get by 11:30, folks. By 11. Yeah, so can we start at 11?
Assuming I didn't have anything else in my entire day.
Again, I think we understand the assignment.
No, we
What
still
is it,
coming.
though, that y'all hope to accomplish tomorrow or Monday? Is it to review the staff?
Yes.
Yes,
And that's it?
yes,
Are you planning to do anything with parking lot ever?
Yes.
yes.
Then do you have an assignment that the council needs to work on away from your body to either?
They know
take
what the
it-
numbers are. They need to either withdraw or curtail their parking lot.
That is,
Everything comes to a consensus.
Can I say something?
Councilman first.
Okay, so, at the beginning of the meeting, we were gonna look at the parking lot. It didn't really make sense without looking at the 1 cent and 2 cent increase. So we've looked at the 1 cent increase. Can we look at the 2 cent before we go to the parking lot? Because that's, yeah.
Saying can do it today?
Yeah, no, not today. No, but I'd appreciate that.
What we
you know.
did was we took consensus of.
I know, I was
0
here.
cents. We will figure out what's on those, since you brought up the points of why look at parking lot items. You got priority lists is only 1 and 2 cents. We will look at those and see how we can fit them in.
Mayor Pro Tem,
According to the priority list.
if I may, if I'm hearing Dr. Hewitt correctly, staff doesn't really have time to get stuff ready for tomorrow or Monday, correct?
No, we will stay up all night to be ready.
Well, but we still, it was also mentioned that we need to get through Penny 2 and parking lot. So why don't we set the next meeting, whether it's tomorrow or Monday, to get through Penny number 2 in the parking lot, and then staff can come back to us, whether that's next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Let's try to do both.
I'd love to get it all done in one day, but the reality is we're gonna get through the 2 cent page in the parking lot, the next meeting, and then
Tomorrow.
the next meeting, get through.
Either way, we
staff.
have to get to the numbers where the numbers equal, so we can have a balance.
It's just a recommendation.
Can we do tomorrow at 10 o'clock?
Yes, I can.
I would like
Tomorrow
to do
at-
Monday.
Somebody said they could.
Clerk, I do
You
it
said
better.
11, Miss Lane.
Ms. Green,
I'm gonna need a higher budget.
I will have to move 6 things because I have crammed everything from this week that has involved me being here into
I
Friday.
hear you.
So we might have another meeting after tomorrow, if
Yes.
we don't get to tomorrow, so.
I
if we
would
do
love for it to be
tomorrow,
Monday. I just got a packed
we
day.
can't do Monday.
I
It has to be Tuesday.
I
'cause
cannot
Wednesday is
do
too late.
Monday.
You can't do
11.
tomorrow.
I
or
can do
Monday.
11
Can't do tomorrow.
Monday.
Got
We can't do
ladies.
Monday.
It's his birthday. Man, celebrate with us.
Can't do and doesn't want to do different.
We have a budget
Okay,
session.
this is what I'm
You
gonna
know,
do.
if you take your birthday
I'm
off, you
going to
get
set the date.
Tomorrow. Do one for you.
We will do tomorrow
No.
at 10 o'clock.
No, well,
And if
okay.
we have to continue, we will continue sometime on
No,
Tuesday
no.
between 9 and 1.
There,
I got too many appointments tomorrow.
there's gonna be about 4 people here if you do it tomorrow. They already said
I
they
got-
You can't make it tomorrow.
He
I got
can't,
too much
he
work,
can't.
man. I
We don't
got-
know if the mayor can.
The mayor can make it, I just got off.
I can't.
I got to get my run
The
on.
mayor's going from 10 to
So
12.
tomorrow, tomorrow.
Everybody can't be here every day, so just do one,
Take a vote.
and do one Monday.
I think it's critical that you
Good tomorrow.
So,
Come Monday.
You say you gotta have the,
y'all gonna
Prepare
be
for the
voting on
22nd.
stuff.
Yes, that's the total adoption list. Y'all want to have a special meeting after.
I was like, can we have a special meeting so we can have more time?
We can.
Well,
We're scheduled on Monday, we're scheduled.
Let's go 3
He
more
has to
hours.
have enough time to get it on the agenda for the
But
22nd.
he doesn't have to have it on the 22nd. We can have a special meeting, because it is not adopted to the 30th, right?
But he's got to get it in.
Yeah, it's got to get.
He's
how
got
much
to get
time
it
do you
uploaded,
need from the
finalized,
time?
upload, and submitted.
Not if we keep recessing this, this is a meeting. How much?
Tomorrow.
How
You
we
allow
have done this in the past, and I would propose we do this again this year, is you have identified what revenue you wish to spend. You have been presented by staff what the 1 cent would get you for operations and what the 2 cents would get you for capital. But you told us that the revenue that you want us to bring you back is based upon 0. You've given us some potential savings and some direction clearly on the capital side that we will take into account. You've given us a little bit of direction, a little bit of some ideas that we can pursue for you to consider on the operating side.
On this.
Don't, the reason I say that we're happy to meet tomorrow or whenever is because we have very few options. It's not going to take us long to say no tomorrow. No, because again, the revenue's not there.
No.
And so, really, what we want is need to make sure that when we bring it back, that if you're going to, on the parking lot, because the capital is actually easy. Capital is, Jeff and we're going to say,
Easier.
It's easier because I want to repair the deck in the back of my house. I don't have the money for it now, so it gets pushed automatically to next year. But what doesn't get pushed to next year is operating. You got to keep the lights on.
Let me ask you this. Why is Wednesday too late? If we met Wednesday at 9, will you still have time?
Well, we got to prepare the ordinance. Right. And again, but we have some strategies for that. But the real issue is the amount of progress that y'all have made in these last two meetings is not sufficient.
We'll take care of that.
Ordinance.
Will everybody do Wednesday at 9?
Y'all aren't making.
Ordinance.
Yeah, we're not.
I can't do till 11.
Not at all.
Talking about tomorrow at 10?
No, Wednesday at 9.
No.
We need to get through the page.
If everybody can't be here tomorrow, doesn't do anything.
Ain't gonna be here every day.
We got
Mayor
everybody.
can't do 9.
You got
She can't do 9. He
No.
can't do 9. I don't know what Brent.
Can't do 9 tomorrow.
When, you
No,
say when,
tomorrow,
sir?
I mean, I'm just,
Wednesday?
just set the date. Fucking shit.
Okay.
What did you say?
Here's
Wednesday?
what we're gonna do. I'm gonna say easy. Tomorrow at 10.
Started.
Tomorrow at 10. We will reconvene this meeting. Anybody have any alibis?
So move.
Any alibis?
I'll be late.
Motion we adjourn.
I'll be at 11.
No, we're
Motion we
recessing.
recess. Motion we recess.
Yeah, I'll be
All right,
late.
thank you,
I'll be in the
everybody.
building though. I'll be in the building.
Tomorrow at 10.
You're gonna postpone the policy committee.
I'm gonna go.
Just remember, we don't want to get to tier 0. Just think. We don't want to be tier
They're
0.
gonna work me down on that.
So we'll get around.
And it is what it is. You gonna have to have multiple meetings.